Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show podcast, coming from right here in our quaint little studio. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. I'm joined in studio today by writer, director, producer Robert Meyer Burnett.
I hope everybody's watching Paradise on Hulu. Just saying.
So good. Jonathan Voico's here.
Morning, everybody.
Chris Carr is here.
Hello.
But most importantly, you guys are here. Thank you so much for being here and making our little show part of your day. And here's how today's show is going to go. We're going to start off by talking about a whole bunch of topics we got lined up for you guys. Then in the second part of the show, we're going to take your live comments and questions. If you guys have a thought, theory, opinion, question, observation, or topic you'd like us to discuss, go ahead and fire it on into our tip link at www.streamelements.com/JohnCampea/tip. And as long as we deem it appropriate to be addressed on the show, and that's up to our discretion, you'll hear us address your issue in the second part of the show. And hey, the good news about this tip link is that it's good 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So if you're listening to this show later, either on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcasting app of choice, or if you're watching the show a little bit later in the day when we're not live, you can still send in a question whenever you'd like. And if you send one in when we're not live, let's get around to answering it on the next episode. All right, guys, listen, we got a lot of stuff to cover here today. So we're going to jump right into it with this. Daredevil, Born Again, coming. What? 9, 10 days? Can't last track. It's coming soon. And we're all getting really excited about it. And now the first reactions for Daredevil Born Again have come out. It's only for the first 2 episodes. A bunch of reviewers were given the first 2 episodes. But I talked to somebody who watched them and they said, John, you're not going to believe it. I'm like, really? They said, how much do you want to know? I'm like, nothing. They said, it's great. He said the action that they've been promising is there, but you know how we've been worried that they're going to take away some of the drama? Drama's all there, at least for the first 2 episodes that they saw. Folks over at Variety have got Daredevil Born Again draws glowing first reactions, with some people praising the opener as the best pilot of any MCU series thus far. So here's what a couple of people had to say about it. Screen Rant on-camera reporter Liam Crowley praised the show, writing, Daredevil Born Again has the best pilot of any MCU series thus far, and it's not close. Edge of seat energy with audible gas throughout. Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio haven't lost a step. Benson and Moorhead bring the sauce. Above all else, it's episodic. We might be back. Sean O'Connell from Cinema Blend wrote, Holy Hell's Kitchen. Daredevil Born Again opens with a lengthy, devastating sequence that screams, this is just as brutal as Netflix. From there, the 2 episodes lay out layered story about cops, vigilantes, and guilt. Read Devil's Reign on a refresh, off to a great start. Then there's more. Eric Davis, a friend of ours, managing editor of Fandango, echoed the sentiments and said, among the strongest starts for a Marvel Studios TV show to date, in my opinion. The first 2 episodes are terrific, setting up a story that is part court procedural and part all-out brawling. There's a fight in episode 1 that is all done in one shot with a wild ending, reminds you kind of the hallway fight scene. Oh, yeah. Really kicks off the series in a memorable way. And basically everybody that I've talked to, as if I've talked to like 40 people, I've talked to 2 or 3. Everybody I've talked to who's seen is just like, it's fantastic so far. Now, before we get into it too much, I do want to remind us all of the fact that starting strong is never been one of Marvel's weaknesses. Book of Boba Fett started pretty strong. She-Hulk started pretty strong. We saw how those turned out. But still, hearing all this is like very encouraging to me. I gotta say, guys, my anticipation level for this is just getting higher and higher and higher. I'm super excited about it. And I am going to be doing a Daredevil Born Again after show. So we are going to, and as long as we don't get 4 episodes in and find out that it sucks and I abandon it, but we are going to be doing a Daredevil post show. So I hope you guys will join us for that. But yeah, man, I am very excited about this. This is the exact kind of thing I wanted to hear. And especially since I know the guys over, the one guy from Screen Rant has been pretty cynical about the MCU, particularly their shows, and saying like, man, we might be back. Like, this is sounding pretty good. Rob, it's only the first 2 episodes, but what are your takeaways from the reactions we're hearing for Daredevil Born Again?
Well, it's what we all hoped. And I think that, look, they retooled the show from scratch. And I think that they had a template. They had 3 years of a show to look at and go, okay, here's what worked and here's what didn't. So there's no reason why after retooling what they were doing, that this shouldn't be good. Like I think this show is going to be good all the way through, because I think that they course corrected and they figured out what they were doing. And at least that's my hope. And there's 9 episodes, right?
Yes.
I mean, the first
9.
2, I think
exactly half of the 18 they originally promised.
I think starting strong like this is a good sign. But like you said, I mean, well, what have you done for me lately? But, even if only 2 episodes are good, that's better than Moon Knight.
I might just watch the first 2 episodes and stop.
Yes. I'm excited. Look, I think we're all excited for this show. I mean, everything about this show looks A-list. I can't wait to see it. I love these actors. I can't wait. I'm really excited.
And again, listen, the showrunner has said some things that have caused me some concern in the last couple of weeks, but he is the guy who did the Netflix series Punisher.
Yeah.
So he knows the character, and I think I like Punisher more than most people. I didn't think Punisher was all that far behind Daredevil. Like,
No.
I thought it was really quite good. Anyway, Chris, you're hearing these reactions. What's your take on them? Are you surprised? And where's your anticipation level right now?
I am very happy to hear that this is being received well, but also, like you guys have pointed out, we have been burnt before, so I'm trying to not get my hopes up. But I love a bunch of these sound bites of, it's like my old friend aged like a fine wine, that Matt's morality is a beautiful focal point of the series. It feels like it's going to hit a whole bunch of the notes that we all want, and it's going to deliver on the things that this director has promised. Because for a while there, it was pushing to a level of, buddy, you're hyping me up too much. You're telling me that your show's too great without me seeing anything, and I need you to temper my expectations.
I'm a huge fan of the directors, Benson and Moorhead.
Yeah.
Those guys, because they did a great Anthony Mackie movie called Synchronic. That's a low budget thing.
Oh my God, I completely forgot about that.
But it's pretty good.
movie.
They did Endless, they did Resolution, Spring, and they Something in the Dirt. They make these really great micro-budget genre films. I'm a big fan.
Well, guys, question is for you. Where's your anticipation level like right now for the upcoming 9 episode? Yeah, I know people saying in the live chat, wait, I thought there were 18. Originally, there were going to be 18. Then they scrapped everything that they did and started from scratch again. It's going to be 9 episodes. Still more than the 6 we sometimes get from Disney Plus. And more importantly, the first 2 episodes are almost going to be like 2 hours. So, and not each, I mean, total. So we're in for something special here. Where's your anticipation level right now? Whatever you guys feel, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? Sticking with the Daredevil and Punisher theme, turns out it's now official. There is a Punisher special coming to Disney Plus, being co-written by John Bernthal himself. Now, this is a bit of a shock because if you guys remember, not too awful long ago, it came out that Disney, after doing Werewolf by Night and the Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special, both of which were wonderful, Disney said they weren't going to do these anymore, which was a bummer, but I kind of got it because what's the business model of those? Like, how do those make money for anybody? But they kind of said they were done with them, and a lot of us were kind of sad about that. But now it's back, and it's going to be Punisher. The Hollywood Reporter, their headline reading, John Bernthal to return to Punisher special for Marvel and Disney. They wrote this: John Bernthal is returning for more punishment. The actor will reprise his role of Frank Castle, aka the anti-hero The Punisher, in a special for Marvel Television. The Hollywood Reporter has confirmed. Bernthal is co-writing the standalone series, now in the works alongside Ronaldo Marcus Green, who will also direct. The Disney Plus show will air in 2026 alongside the second season for Daredevil. Daredevil Born Again Season 1, which will see Bernthal appearing as Punisher once again, releases on Disney Plus on March 4th. All right. So to me, there's like 3 really significant pieces of news here. Number 1, Punisher is getting his own standalone. Great. Number 2, John Bernthal is going to be co-writing it himself. Number 3, Marvel's doing specials again. So I'm just trying to gather. There's a lot there in just one piece of news that dropped. Okay, let's start with Punisher. There have been a lot of great characters in the Daredevil series over at Netflix. After Daredevil himself, I don't think any of which are as compelling to me as Punisher, the Frank Castle. Listen, we've had some great Punishers before, great guys playing Punisher. The late great Ray Stevenson, like fantastic at it. But there's something about Bernthal that just, he was kind of born to play the role. Not to the same level that Robert Downey Jr. was born to play Tony Stark or Ryan Reynolds was born to play Deadpool. But I mean, you know, he was just feels like he was born to play the role. He really embodies Punisher a great deal. And I loved season 1 and 2 of Punisher. But then the idea of them bringing back the specials. To me, this is fascinating because the whole idea of the special presentations on Disney, these one-shot, 45-minute to 1 hour long specials, however long they end up making them, it just opens up a world of possibilities of other things it becomes a playground for them. They can pluck characters that maybe they would never dream of investing full productions into, and you can do a special. And listen, to this day, I say this without irony and with no regret, the Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas special is now my all-time favorite Christmas special. More than Rudolph, more than Frosty. The Guardians of the Galaxy Christmas is my all-time favorite Christmas special, and I crapped on it before I watched it. I said it was a dumb idea, and I loved it. So anyway, so much here that I love, Chris. What is standing out to you the most when you take a look at this news?
You know, honestly, the fact that he's joining in to help write all of this, I'm very excited about that.
So he's really invested in this.
He's incredibly invested in this character. People also, I think, tend to forget what a well-trained and just vibrant actor he is. I think we see him as an action star a lot. I always recommend everyone watches his Hot Ones because he talks about his training in Moscow and everything as well. He's so keyed into this character. He does a method acting style, which, you know, works for some people, works for others, in a more scary way, but he seems to be one of the ones who gets it. He really enjoys this character, and I love his quote that he has later on in this article too, talking about how Walking Dead led him to understanding and respecting the comic book fan community so much. And I love when creators, when actors, when writers, when directors don't try to poo-poo the source material and act like it's something that they have to elevate, but instead go, hey, we get why all of you love this. We understand why you have reverence for it. So do we. Rest assured that we're going to take the characters you love and put them on screen in a way that does them service. Not says, what you like is trash and I'm going to make it better. I love, love, love when we have comic book content that people go, hey, yeah, we're going to celebrate the fact that you like that. We're going to make sure we give you a great product. And I love that we're coming back to specials. I love Werewolf by Night so much. I think it's so wonderful. I also enjoy the Guardians of the Galaxy special as well. I think that's a smart move for Marvel too, as opposed to doing these series that kind of go nowhere. I would love little one-off adventures that are specials. I think that'd be super fun, and I hope we see more of them.
You know what the great things about the specials are? There's no commitment.
Yeah.
It's not like, well, we're greenlighting a show, so we have to think about, is this something that can do with season 2, a season 3? There's no commitment to it. Let's just, hey, you know what? It's a Tinder date.
We just keep it cash. Just keep it cash.
Just go out, quick coffee. Hey, and if it turns into something, hey, great. Let's do this again sometime. And if not, okay, no problem. I love that. Anyway, Rob, I don't know why I just compared the Marvel Cinematic Universe to Tinder
dates.
but,
I don't know.
but
That's when you're romantic.
I'm all in.
Yeah.
what stands out to you in this story?
Well, you know what I love about this is I would like to say that these are organically grown from interest from the talent themselves. Like, I'm sure that James Gunn came up with the idea of the Christmas special while they were shooting Guardians 3 and probably presented it. They had the sets. So they've already got, it's all there. You know, and they don't have to sit there and, well, we have to budget this. We have to do this. They've got James
Just
probably.
got to give Kevin Bacon a call.
Right, and that probably, and he's not going to not, I mean, of course he would, I would love to have been in the room when he got that call. Wait a minute, you want me to, what's the part?
Myself.
But like with this, I wouldn't be surprised if the genesis of this came out of when they're working on Punisher. I mean, when they were working on Daredevil, that he came up with this idea. And because they've already got the production team there in terms of amortizing costs, if it's a good idea and they've got the material, these are born out of love as opposed to, you know, corporate thinking going, well, we need I mean, they didn't think that we have to have a Punisher special. Somebody pitched this idea because they wanted to, probably him. And they said, let's do it. We've already got the team. Let's shoot it on a couple of weekends or something. I don't know. And I would like to see them do more of this because the two we've already seen were born out of love and they were both really fun. And you know, I mean, didn't Michael Giacchino direct
Werewolf by Night?
I mean,
yep.
you know, he's a composer. He's like, I would like to do this. I mean, it's exactly what franchise filmmaking should do to allow talent and people that really love something to come in and do these unique things, and everybody benefits. There's no downside.
Here's another upside to the whole special thing. Remember I said it's no commitment. You don't have to worry about doing a season 2, season 3. The other nice thing about the specials is you can go 2 years without doing one at all.
Right.
Like it's not like you have to come out with one every year. It's not like you have to come out with it's one of those things where whenever somebody comes through the door and presents a really great idea, great, let's do it. And if the next 10 aren't great ideas, well, if we don't do one for 3 years, we don't do one for 3. It doesn't matter. They're specials. I really like that. And I think it's going to open the door for them. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? John Bernthal is going to be writing a Punisher standalone special presentation for Disney Plus. And what are you more excited about? The fact that Punisher is going to get a little bit of a standalone thing? The fact that John Bernthal is going to be co-writing it? The fact that Marvel is bringing back special presentations? Whatever stands out to you guys the most, jump down to the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. That down, let's move from Hell's Kitchen over to Pawnee, Indiana for a moment. One of my all-time favorite shows. Maybe a show in the past couple of years I've watched more than any other shows, Parks and Rec. I mean, I still at least once a week will play Parks and Rec roulette, where I'll just open it up on Peacock and just close my eyes and flick through the episodes and then just hit play. And then just watch whatever's on while I'm eating dinner or something. It is one of the most charming, wonderful, delightful shows ever. Like right up there with The Office and Seinfeld and stuff like that for me. I loved it. I really missed the show a lot. And then they did that COVID special. Remember that? They did that where everybody was talking on Zoom calls. They lost none of their charm or their heart. I loved it. Well, now, Rashida Jones, who of course played Ann Perkins, you ethnically ambiguous beauty, as they would call her in it. She's coming out and saying, I think it might be time for us to revive this thing. As she was doing an interview, this comes from the folks over at Joe Blow, who wrote the following. It's been 10 years since Parks and Recreation went off the air. I still can't believe that. But we haven't yet gotten to the end of the timeline, as the series finale took us all the way to 2048. But for Rashida Jones, who played nurse turned Leslie Knope BFF turned beautiful obsolescent tree shark, Ann Perkins, she doesn't want to wait that long to reunite with her Pawnee pals. Speaking with Gold Derby, Jones said that there might be no better time to return for Parks and Rec than now, which is fitting since 2025 is one of the years featured in the show's future. Oh man, I hope sometime soon. I know Mike Schur was like, there has to be a reason for us to do it. We can't just do it, but I would love to do that. The reason I found this interview really interesting is because we've heard not too long ago, why am I freezing on the name of the actor who plays Tom Haverford?
Aziz Ansari?
Aziz, thank you. Aziz kind of mentioned this about a month or two ago about, hey, there's a lot of revivals going on, Parks and Rec, blah, blah, blah. Amy Poehler and Nick Offerman were doing this thing together, and they kind of teased it a little bit. And now we've got Rashida Jones coming out and saying this. Look, will they go back to it? I'm not sure. I think they would have no problem bringing everybody back. Even Chris Pratt. Chris Pratt, whenever you hear him talk about Parks and Rec, he refers to everybody on that show as his family. Like that, a lot of them still all keep in touch on a regular basis and all that kind of stuff. And for me, the nature of the show Parks and Rec is as such that the plot didn't matter. It was just a great show with these collection of insanely wonderful characters, and we just watch them interact with each other. And it's just beautiful and wonderful, which is part of the reason why the COVID special was so good. So look, in an era where there's a lot of these old show revivals, some of them being more successful than others, I'll tell you what, I think the beauty of Parks and Rec has not lost an ounce of its potency. I would love to see this happen. I give it a 20% chance of actually happening, but I'm going to hold on to that 20%. Anyway, Chris, you read her comments. I know you are also a Parks and Rec fan.
I love this show.
Do you think she's right? Do you think the world is ready for one? Or do you think Parks and Rec, fair enough, might be played out?
I feel like the world needs a show like Parks and Rec right now.
I agree.
It was pre-Ted Lasso, before Ted Lasso existed. It was people who wanted to work to make their communities a better place. And sure, it was funny, and sure, there were goofs and gags, but it was somebody who, at the heart of it, just wanted the best for her community. Yeah. And I love that. And I think that's something we all can get behind is, don't you want to make where you live a great place? Don't you want to love your hometown and be proud of where you're from, even when your town does ridiculous, dumb things and you just want to try to find reasons to love it? This show was magical. It was wonderful. My friend Holly Constant does a great podcast called Park Pal that was featured on Entertainment Weekly recently, which is very exciting. And she's going to have a field day with them for some information. There's a couple episodes with me if you want to check them out. I think this would be great to revisit. This whole cast loves this show. Mike Sure is a little busy, but I think this would be really, really great to have everyone back on board. Chris Pratt could just take a break from doing some action movies. Amy Poehler could take a break from all the things she does. We get Ben Schwartz to take a break from his touring.
By the way,
I would
did you
love
see?
this.
Oh, why am I just said her name. Amy Poehler and Tina Fey are going on tour together.
Yep.
Anne's already getting our tickets for
Oh,
it.
I'm so excited about
Do you know,
it.
can I admit something? Whenever I watch Severance, I kind of imagine that's Ben Wyatt 10 years after Leslie and a couple of his friends were killed in a bus accident or
This
something.
is literally my friend Holly's theory that they talked about on Entertainment
Really?
Weekly, where she was like, I think the
Actually, Ben
claymation
Wyatt.
is a bit of Severance. And Adam
It's
Scott
Requiem for a Tuesday.
and Adam Scott was like, I mean, it's not claymation, but this is a really good theory.
I told her it was better than Avatar. Anyway, Rob, I know you don't watch a lot of sitcoms.
No, I'm not a sitcom guy. I've just seen a few episodes of Park and Rec
Oh,
because
God, I
you know
love this
Elizabeth
show.
watches sitcoms.
In
so.
today's environment, though, with the revivals, do you think this is one of the shows that could come back, or do you think this is
Well, not
probably
only do I
more of
think
a
it could
pipe
come
dream?
back, I think with them talking about it, you now have multiple cast members talking about it. It's in the works.
You think so?
Yeah, and why not? Whether it's a movie, whether it's a new limited series, you know, in this day and age, everybody's so risk averse. It makes more sense to get these shows to come back than it is to create a new show. And this is a beloved show. People love this show. Like Chris was saying, there's no downside to doing something like this. And all this cast has done is grown in stature since
Yeah.
they've done Parks and Rec. I mean, this cast, they've all got great careers, and who wouldn't want to put these people together? That's one of this show's strengths was the chemistry between these cast. You loved watching this show. I can say, having not seen all the episodes, watching that show, the cast was amazing. I mean, you watched the
good.
chemistry.
The chemistry was magical.
It really was. And to watch those episodes, why wouldn't you want to do this? And why wouldn't they want to do it? They probably had a blast making this show.
I just know that every couple of years, my heart would smile when I'd watch an episode, and all of a sudden the words "treat yourself" would come on. It's like, oh, it's a treat yourself episode. There weren't many of them, but I love those. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Do you think Parks and Rec could actually get a revival? I don't think there's any show that would be more ripe for one. I have my doubts they'll actually be able to do it, but I would love it if they did. How do you guys feel about it? Whatever your thoughts are, jump down to the comment section below and leave your thoughts there. All right, guys. With that down, we still have a number of other things we need to talk about, including, you ever wondered why we haven't seen Spider-Man show up in any of the live-action Disney things? Well, now we know why, because they can't. That's been confirmed by Marvel. We're going to talk about that. Also, ever since Endgame 2019, it's been an interesting era from 2020 to 2025 for comic book movies. We're going to count down what we think have been the 5 best and the 5 worst in this era. And also, if you jump on LinkedIn today and go over to the Lucasfilm page, there might be a help wanted sign. We're going to talk about that and a few things more. But before we do, we're going to take a quick second and thank one of the sponsors of today's episode of the John Campea Show, our friends at Kikoff. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, Kikoff. Man, time flies, doesn't it? One minute you're reminiscing about your last vacation, and the next you're thinking about major life goals like buying a car, getting that dream home. But if your credit isn't where it needs to be, those goals can feel out of reach. And that's where Kikoff comes in, the #1 credit building app in the App Store that makes it easy, affordable, and stress-free to build credit fast. And that's exactly why I love Kikoff. They give you a credit line for just building credit, not for spending. Your on-time payments get reported to the 3 major credit bureaus, helping you improve your credit mix and payment history, 2 of the biggest factors in credit growth. If your credit is under 600, you could see a jump of about 28 points in your first month. No credit check, no hidden fees, no interest, just smart credit building. Building credit can happen faster than you expect with Kikoff. Don't wait. Get your first month for just $1 at getkikoff.com/Campea. That's kickoff without the C. Get 80% off at getkikoff.com/Campea. Must sign up via getkickoff.com/Campea to activate offer. Offer applies to new customers first month only. Subject to approval. Offer subject to change. Terms and conditions may apply. Point stat based on Equifax Vantage Score 3.0 changes for Kikoff users starting under 600 who made their first on-time payment between January of 2021 and March of 2024. Payment and credit activity outside Kikoff can have an impact on your credit. Individual results may vary. And thank you to our friends at Kikoff for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast. All right, guys, with that down, let's move on to this, shall we? You know, everybody's always wondering in the MCU, because it is a shared cinematic universe. This has always been my fear of shared cinematic universes. Why doesn't this hero show up in that? Well, if they're in New York, why didn't that hero show up in this? Like, always because it's a shared cinematic universe. And a lot of people have been asking for, like, hey, why doesn't Spider-Man show up in the Daredevil series? A lot of people think Spider-Man will show up in the Daredevil series. Well, we've said for a long time that they probably won't be able to because of the contracts and stuff like that, but now it's official. The head of Marvel Television, I believe Winterbaum is his name, said Marvel Studios confirms that Tom Holland's Spider-Man cannot appear in live-action Disney series. This comes to us from Yahoo Entertainment, who wrote the following. Marvel Studios has officially confirmed that Tom Holland's Spider-Man will not appear in any live-action Disney Plus series due to existing rights agreements with Sony Pictures. Brad Winderbaum, Marvel Studios' head of streaming, television, and animation, clarified the situation, stating, Sony has the long-form television rights. We can do 30-minute animation. This statement sheds lights on the complex web, see what they did there? On the complex web of rights surrounding one of Marvel's most iconic characters and what it means for the future of Spider-Man in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. All right, so for a long time, like, people have said, you know, well, why doesn't Sony just do a Spider-Man movie? And we try to explain, because that breaks the terms of their deal. Marvel gets to do live action Spider-Man. Sony can do long-form animated Spider-Man. Well, they're doing Peter Parker cartoons. Well, that's because it's short animation. And I kind of like that finally somebody from Marvel has just come out to give some strict clarity to it. And just in that one line, Sony has the long-form rights. We can do 30-minute animation. And that's that. So if you are somebody who was wondering, because I remember in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, when they got down to the last couple of episodes and the big thing was happening in New York, a lot of people were, I bet you Spider-Man's going to show up. They're in New York. And a lot of people have been wondering, with Daredevil coming out in Hell's Kitchen, bet you Spider-Man's going to show up. They're in New York. Don't hold your breath. There is a higher chance that Jennifer Walters, that She-Hulk is going to show up than Spider-Man is. So you can take that one off your bingo card. And it makes sense. Like, look, under the deal, both Sony and Marvel want to make sure they're both getting best bang for their buck with the character, right? Marvel doesn't want to have a live action Spider-Man if Sony's going to dilute it by having their own live action Spider-Man going on. Sony making their full length feature animations don't want Marvel doing full feature animations either. Sony has no plans to do half-hour, 30-minute TV stuff. That's fine. So it's a very complex, but the lines are pretty clearly drawn here. Rob, I mean, we've always kind of suspected this is the way and they're going to do it. Do you think it's going to feel jarring at all, having Spider-Man not show up in certain situations? I think it's perfectly fine, but what's your takeaway from this?
Okay, we live in Los Angeles.
Yes, we do.
How many times did you go somewhere, do something, and your best friend didn't show up at that place? Like, every single time. We live in a giant city. Like just because something's happening doesn't mean that a superhero is going to show up at every event. It's a big city. Nobody knows what's happening. He doesn't have a superhero radio. Hey, we got ninjas over here on the corner of 48th and 7th. Can we get your help? We could use a few web shooters. I mean, the world isn't like that, you know. And I understand what people are saying. I get that kind of thinking, but it's like, think about everything that happens in a city in a day. Think about how many police calls or how many emergency calls happen in a day. I mean, it would be, I know that we are thinking that way, but if you really start thinking about how it's never I guess I'm saying it's never bothered me. It would bother me if there's an alien invasion.
Right.
And the X-Men don't show up from Grey Malkin Lane or whatever.
Yeah.
That would bug me. If the entire city, if there's giant alien dragon craft coming out of a huge portal in the sky.
They should make a movie like that.
Yeah, I know. I mean, then I'd be like, where is everybody? Why aren't all hands on deck? There's only 5 of us. That would bother me, especially now after 35 movies. But before then, not so much.
I mean, nobody ever says this in the comics. When I'm reading the comics, I'm not like, but where's Iron Man?
Right. But to your point too about living in LA, as somebody who lives in the LA area, like one of the most common questions I get from my friends back home or for people writing into me saying come to visit LA is, oh, when you go to the grocery store, do you always run into celebrities? No, probably about 9 times out of 10, I mean, granted, in LA, maybe 1 time out of 10, you'll see somebody famous, but
Jay Leno a lot.
And there's a lot of celebrities here.
Yeah.
Well,
a lot of celebrities, and you don't just bump into them all the time.
There is three. There is three. There's the Trader Joe's in Silver Lake. There's Rock and Roll Ralph's late night, and then there's the one grocery store that's on Franklin. That's
what else?
By La Poubelle.
In Beverly Hills, there. Is it the Grove?
Yeah.
The farmers market in the Grove.
Yeah.
I have run into Hugh Jackman there. I've run into Chris Pratt there. I've run into Denzel Washington there. I mean, that's a big one too.
And
Studio
also,
City Farmers Market. That's
what's
the
that?
one. Studio City Farmers
The
Market.
Studio City one too.
And West LA. What is
That
it?
one's
So
obnoxious
Spider-Man was
because
always there in
paparazzi
those
show up at that
spots.
one.
Yeah,
It's just people
Spider-Man
trying
was
to
there.
shop.
You know what was another good one? Was being the operative word. ArcLight.
ArcLight was great.
I
yeah.
always-
ArcLight was great. Ran into Quentin
Always
Tarantino
had
there.
celebrities.
And in
there.
Calabasas, that upscale shopping complex.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
you're more than likely to run into a Kardashian there.
We've
but-
just done a great disservice to the world.
We
Now
really
they don't know where
They're
they're
all like,
at.
where should
Where are
we
we
go?
gonna go?
People are like, damn it, you guys.
Anyway, Chris, I mean, it's not surprising to hear that we're not going to see Spider-Man pop up in Disney Plus shows, but
No.
this kind of puts an explanation point. Is this a unfortunate thing? Does it kind of make sense? How do you see it?
I suppose it's unfortunate in that Spider-Man's one of my favorites and I'd like him to be in all the things, but did anyone seriously think that we would have him regularly in TV shows? We barely are able to have him because of all the Sony deal stuff. This was one of those stories that I went, yeah, do we have to publish that? Oh gosh, okay. I'm glad someone came out and explained it for everyone because people apparently are very confused about this. But yeah, it makes sense that he's not going to show up in every single thing.
Plus, he also has a life. Like he was going to school.
Right.
Yeah. It's just-
By the way, I also saw somebody, this is another big thing that I always see, because all the fans always think there's these big loopholes that the contract writers never thought of. So like I just saw one of our viewers write in there, okay, so they can't have a live action Peter Parker, but can another Spider, like can a Ben Reilly show up? Guys, no. They have very definitive lines. There's no little loopholes they can get through. It's
Not everything is the contract for the Michael Jackson biopic, you know? Disney's got some good lawyers.
You had one job. You had one job. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think? Does this surprise you? Or are you like, no, this makes total sense? Or it's like, no, man, I really thought we were going to see Spider-Man show up in Daredevil or something else down the road. However you guys feel about it, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. With that down, guys, let's move on to this, shall we? You know, I thought this would be fun to do because we are now in 2025. And there was a real turning point in the history as we look back on all the major road posts in the development and the ongoing legacy of comic book movies. 2019 was a major one because that was Avengers Endgame. The second highest grossing film in history, the highest grossing comic book film of all time, and the crescendo, the climax, if you will, of the first 3 phases of the MCU, all 20 plus films built up to that one thing, massive event. And since then, the perception has been that, man, comic book movies have just not been the same. And it's been a kind of a different era, both from DC and Marvel and some others that have been kind of disappointing. So I thought it would be interesting just for a couple of minutes here to take a look at what we think are the worst, because we all know there's been a bunch of bad ones, but also to remind us that there's been some really good stuff. What have been the 5 best comic book movies we've had in this new era, 2020-25, this post-Endgame comic book world. So I'm going to get things started here. I'll do my 5 worst. Then I'm going to ask you guys for your 5 worst, and I'll do my 5 best. We'll go 5. So let's start off with the 5 worst. I first want to start with giving an honorable mention. It did not make my list, but it deserves to be mentioned in this worst list. and that is New Mutants. New Mutants gets an honorary mention here. Now, look, one of the things that I will always be very, very grateful to New Mutants for. This was one of the most interesting moments of my film loving journey. It was the pandemic. All theaters everywhere had shut down. I hadn't stepped foot in a movie theater in 6 months, which is the longest stretch in my life. But Nevada opened their movie theaters. And one night, me and my buddy, Soul Video, Jonathan Green, we jumped in a car, drove 4 hours to Las Vegas to go see New Mutants because the theater was open, finished the movie, got back in the car, drove 4 hours back. It was one of the most interesting experiences I've ever had as a film fan. Doesn't make my top 5 worst, but New Mutants does get an honorable mention. All right, here we go. My number 5 worst film of the last 5 years from 2020 to 2025 sucks because I love this franchise. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Oh, to quote Chris Carr, woof.
Rude.
And my level of disappointment can't accurately be summed up because I so enjoy the franchise. I love Paul Rudd in this role. I love Michael Douglas in these movies. I mean, obviously we're going to have Kang, and the movie just sucked. So my number 5 worst film from 2020 to 25 is Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. My number 4 worst film in this time period, Wonder Woman 1984, which again really sucks because I love the first movie. I thought they did such a great job with the first film. Like, I just can't get over how much I liked it. And then we got into 84 and I'm like, what happened? What went wrong? So my number 4 worst film in this era is Wonder Woman 1984. My number 3 worst film of this era was neither a Marvel or a DC film.
I had to look this up because I completely forgot what it was.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
I don't blame you. Was neither Marvel or DC. Has got one of my favorite celebrities in it, Vin Diesel's Bloodshot. Oh my God. What were they thinking?
Is that Isaac Gonzalez?
Yeah, she was in it, and I love her. Lamore Morris was in it. I mean, it had a good cast. Guy Pearce was in it. And I didn't think the trailers were all that bad. It's based on a really interesting character. And man, that movie sucked. All right, so that's my number 3 worst film. My number 2 worst film of the 2020 to 2025 era. I'm actually surprised it's not number 1. If you'd asked me 6 months ago, I would have swore this list would have been number 1. But it was Madam Web. It's one of those movies. You know how every time I watch Eternals or every time I watch Avengers: Age of Ultron, I appreciate those movies more and more and more. When I try to rewatch any of Madam Web, I am more and more baffled about how this movie ever got made. It is one of the truly worst comic book films ever made in history, not just from 2020 to 2025. One of the worst comic book movies in history, so it gets my number 2. And I never would have believed that one could come out that would top it. But about a month or 2 ago, it happened. Kraven the Hunter. My worst film, comic book film of 2020-25. Again, I had such naive optimism about this movie. I really believed that this could be good. I never thought it was going to be awesome, but I really believed this could be a good movie. And boy, those hopes were dashed. Dashed, I say, against the stone of reality. So once again, honorable mention to New Mutants. My number 5 was Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Number 4, Wonder Woman 84. Number 3, Bloodshot. Number 2, Madam Web. And my worst comic book film of 2020 to 2025 is Kraven the Hunter. Rob, let's go over to you. What would you say are the 5 worst comic book films in this era?
Well, they're not films, but I'll talk, I guess, honorable mentions for worst. The 2 things that disappointed me that was Moon Knight and Secret Invasion.
Oh, so you're going to include Disney Plus?
I wasn't going to include those, but I'm just saying because they're not movies, so I wouldn't. But
right.
both of those were shattering disappointments for me because I was really looking forward to both, and I hated them both. Wonder Woman 84, probably at the bottom of that list. I really, again, what a fall from grace. I wanted to love that movie. I was so excited for it. The story that movie told was ridiculous.
Yeah.
And it was just a wishing rock, and it was just, I hated it so much.
It was so gross too.
And what a waste of Pedro Pascal.
That man had no consent.
It's fine.
Yeah. Thor: Love
Wonder
and Thunder.
Woman. He's fine.
I hated Thor: Love and Thunder. I wanted so much out of it, and the movie was a total goof. It could have been awesome. It could have had meaning. It could. I sat in the theater and I'm like, God, really? I really hated it. Morbius. Again, another movie I had such high hopes for.
Couldn't
Jared
believe
Leto.
it didn't make my list. I really thought it
Yeah,
was going
I'm
to make
like,
my list,
what?
and it didn't.
Morbius, just like, come on, man. I mean, these are the thing about these movies is they're competent in terms of how they're made. And then I'm gonna go Craven, number 2.
Yeah.
Number two. Wow.
Because look, there was things in Craven. I like Aaron Taylor Johnson,
So do I.
so he was more palatable to watch. Now, Madam Web, I'm not even gonna. It's been beat up too much. But the number one movie that was Quantum Mania. I hated Quantum
You didn't
Mania.
even have Madam
guys.
Web on your list.
I don't even have, you know what? It's too obvious. It's a punching bag. I mean, that's kind of the special kid we have to take care of and make sure they get the education they deserve. You know, we all have to, the whole community has to rally around Madam Web.
I'm not rallying around Madam Web.
Okay, don't.
No.
I understand. But Quantum Mania, again, the Marvel Cinematic Universe,
rallying
I
around
loved it.
Quantumania.
I love the Marvel Cinematic Universe so much. And to watch, I mean, the same director made all three.
It had a good director.
And I'm
Look
sure
what happened.
Peyton Reed, you know, I'm sure he read that script. He was stuck in. It's like, how do you take a delightful franchise and take everything that made it delightful away and put it in this? The same was true of Love and Thunder, and all these movies. Verisimilitude is out the window. Everything the Marvel Universe did really, really well was same with Thor: Love and Thunder, and same with Wonder Woman. It's like you guys are now making why superhero movies were not popular in the 90s. Everything was like Shaquille O'Neal and Steel. It's like, give me a break. How can you do this to your characters? They piss me off. These movies all piss me off.
I'm still kind of shaken that Rob doesn't think Steel was great. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, Chris.
I'm telling Shaquille O'Neal what you said.
I was gonna
I
say.
love Shaquille O'Neal.
The initial email, I did not see the dates on this, so I initially had Steel, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, The Spirit, those kinds of movies
yeah,
on
we're doing
there.
half
Oh,
decade.
no. 2020, 2025.
I mean,
Well-
same hits, same absolute bangers. Wonder Woman 1984, Quantumania. I put Secret Invasion. I counted that one because that is, I try to constantly forget about its existence, and then once I'm reminded of it, I'm so mad and disappointed.
Yeah.
Morbius, and then Madam Web.
All right, so a lot of the same ones we have
Yeah.
on the list there. Now, okay, now we all know there have been a lot of disappointments in the post-Endgame era. But I wanted to also look at what have been the best, because there have also been some really good things that have come out in the last 5 years. So here's my top 5 comic book films in the post-Endgame era, 2020 to 2025. I'm going to start again with an honorable mention. I'm kind of shocked it didn't make my list, but as an honorable mention, I'm going to mention Guardians of the Galaxy 3. What a great ending to the franchise. What a great ending to the series. And forget as an ending to the series, what a great movie. This is a great movie. It made you feel, it made you think. It was, movies are experiential events, and this one took you through the gamut of it. It was thrilling, it was exciting, it was funny, it was sad. I mean, I love this movie. I've still never seen a movie that made Ray Aura more angry. For all the right reasons, made him angry than this. So my honorable mention is Guardians of the Galaxy. All right. My number 5 best movie in the post-Endgame era, Spider-Man No Way Home. I don't think it's the best of the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies. And I certainly think a lot of it had to do with gimmick, but it was still an amazingly fun movie. The action was wonderful. The whole Aunt May scene, moving. Listen, what John Watts did with those 3 movies is incredible. And kind of like Guardians of the Galaxy 3, the way he brought it to a close there was great. So I'm going to put Spider-Man No Way Home as my number 5 best. At number 4, the one everybody counted out, Matt Reeves is The Batman. Man, I love that film. Shaved about 20 minutes off of it, I probably would have had it even higher on my list. But what Matt Reeves has done with Batman has has captured the tone and the DNA of what has always made this character so great. And particularly in the last 20 or 30 years. And Robert Pattinson worked out great, as most of us knew he would. And it was just a dark, thrilling, true kind of like Seven version of a comic book movie in many ways, and with a startling opening, like that opening with Riddler and everything. And God, that just shook you. So I've got The Batman as my number 4. In my number 3 spot for the best comic book films of 2020 to 2025, I love this movie. I loved it so much I was shaking when I came out of it. Shang-Chi. This, from great heroes, great villains, snappy dialogue. It kind of represented the best of the MCU to me in many ways. Not that it was the best of the MCU movies, but it represented the best characteristics of MCU movies. Terrific post-credit scenes, like the whole bit, the best hand-to-hand fighting in any Marvel Cinematic Universe movie. I still once in a while will just sit down. I got a Sonos sound system. I'll sit down, put on the bus fight with DJ Snake's Run It playing in the background. Don, 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 as the fight starts and all that kind of stuff. I could watch that all the time. Shang-Chi, number 3. At number 2, I had thought Shang-Chi was the best Marvel film since Endgame until number 2 came out, Deadpool and Wolverine. The first time I watched it, my stomach hurt. I was laughing. I laughed so hard. My stomach hurt. I was agog and aghast at the level of violence that they put into it. Everybody was worried about the Disneyfication of it, but that clearly never happened. And it was just also great, just the nostalgia of it, and what a credit run with the big love letter to the Fox universe at the end, which I thought was, I got emotional actually watching that. Sung to the tune of I hope you had the time of your life, as they're playing all that, and I got emotional because I grew up with these. I watched all these. And so anyway, Deadpool and Wolverine, my number 2. My number 1. I think the best comic book movie in the 2020-2025, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. These Spider-Verse movies have just, if the third one is on par, it will be in the conversation, not just of the greatest comic book trilogy, it'll be in the conversation one of the greatest trilogies of all time. I cannot believe the level of excellence this film had. I couldn't believe, I thought for sure coming out of Into the Spider-Verse, I just wanted it to be good. It's not going to be as good as the first one. I just want it to be good. It's amazing. And so I loved it. So once again, my reminding us all that there's been some great stuff in the last couple of years. My honorable mention is Guardians of the Galaxy 3. My number 5 is Spider-Man No Way Home. My number 4 is The Batman. My number 3 is Shang-Chi. My number 2 is Deadpool and Wolverine. And my number 1 is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Chris, let's go over to you on this. What has been your best of the best for the last 5 years?
Again, I'm doing a lot of TV on mine. And if we could have inched in with 2018, I would have put down PlayStation Spider-Man game. I think that is one of the best adaptations of Spider-Man that's ever been done. For me, season 1 of Invincible. That is an incredible adaptation of those comics. That is so well done. That is so beautifully executed. The Miss Marvel series is so good.
It's one of the best things Marvel's ever done.
So wonderful. Guardians 3 is beautiful. I love that movie so much. It's probably my favorite Marvel movie. I love all of these guys. Damn you, James Gunn, for making me care that much about a trash panda. I love that little guy. Spider-Verse is so freaking phenomenal and beautiful and just everything that you want in a Spider-Man product. And then I think the best thing that's been adapted, because it just took the source material and really ran with it and made it so much more than it originally was. The Boys. I think The Boys is one of the best adapted things out there. Honorable mention to Preacher as well. That's a real fun one. Seth Rogen knows what he's doing.
Just side note, in case you're joining us late, that Chris had already mentioned that she misread the thing. We weren't going to include television, but she did. And I'm actually glad you got those projects mentioned.
Yeah.
Rob, what about you?
Now, I'm going with my favorites. Maybe
That's how this works.
That's how this works.
Okay,
yeah.
my favorites.
To you, they are the best.
Okay, here's what I want. This is gonna be very controversial. Number 5, The Flash. Come at me, bro.
I really like The Flash. Doesn't make my list, but I really like that movie.
And you are very welcome to liking The Flash.
I like The Flash.
Good for you.
Number 4, The Suicide Squad.
James Gunn's. That was great.
Yeah, that's a good call. Yeah.
The Suicide Squad. I never thought I'd see Starro. Come on, man.
Who would have ever believed we'd
As
see
an old school,
Starro?
listen, I grew up as a DC fanboy. You know, the Justice League was my jam. Number 3, Across the Spider-Verse. Number 2, The Batman.
Hell
So
yeah.
good.
And number 1,
I know.
Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Really?
Yes.
The
The
3-part, whatever many parts
look,
it is.
man, the Justice League was the worst thing I ever saw in my
Yeah.
life. I love the Justice League. I collected. It was the only comic I collected when I was a kid. I love the Justice League so much. And when I saw that movie, I wanted to punch myself. I mean, but when I watched the epic, look, you know what? Here's the thing. Zack Snyder's Justice League was the way that I thought of the Justice League when I was a kid.
really enjoyed it myself too.
You know, and I've found myself going and revisiting that movie more than any other superhero movie of the last 4 years. I love it. I love my physical media of it. I love turning it up loud. Sometimes I watch it without even the sound on. I'll put on music and it's
Rob.
just playing.
How could you?
Because, you know, so all you people that think I
That's
hate
interesting.
Zack Snyder.
I thought it was better than the theatrical version. I didn't think it was that much
I think
better
it's
than
much
the
better
theatrical
than
version.
theatrical.
I love it.
Oh,
Love
well,
it.
That's why these lists happen. That's why these lists exist.
You know, it's really cool. You put EDM music, techno music, or a good DJ, a little chill out music like Tiesto, and just put it on.
Never
the
chilled
screen.
out to Tiesto, but all
I used
right.
to do that a lot with Barbarella when I was married. We put Barbarella on the screen. And play
I
techno
love
music.
Barbarella so much.
Oh, I know. One of the great comic book adaptations ever.
So great.
Anyway, guys, what about you? I mean, yeah, listen, things haven't been the same since Endgame, but there has still been a lot of really good stuff and some really terrible stuff. What to you would be the 5 worst and the 5 best comic book movies that we've had in this era of 2020 to 2025? Whatever you guys think, jump down in the comments below and leave your thoughts there. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? Give me a second here. Get this. Oh. News has come out. Kathleen Kennedy is leaving Lucasfilm. It's now being reported by the major trades such as Variety is writing Star Wars boss Kathleen Kennedy planning to exit Lucasfilm at the end of 2025. They go on to write the following. Kathleen Kennedy, the longtime president of Lucasfilm, is expected to step down at the end of 2025. She intends to retire after her current contract ends, according to a source with knowledge of her plans. The Force Awakens remains the highest grossing... Guys, this is a big thing. The Force Awakens remains the highest grossing film in domestic box office history, with $936 million and $2 billion globally. But the triad of Skywalker-centric blockbusters experienced diminishing returns. 2018 Solo: A Star Wars Story became the first Star Wars movie ever to lose money in its theatrical run. Kennedy also oversaw 2023's Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, the 5th and final in the Harrison Ford-led series. The action-adventure, which relaunched the property after 15 years, was and this is in Variety's words, a catastrophic failure. All right. Now, before we pop bottles...
Are you really going to open that?
Maybe. Actually, this is Anne's. I might get in trouble if I do. But
Ask for
I do,
forgiveness,
before
not
I go
permission.
into the why this is good news part, I do want to remind everybody about the fact that, and I feel like I have to do this every time we talk about how Kathleen Kennedy should not be the head of Lucasfilm, is that I am not one of these brain dead, anything that's Kathleen Kennedy is bad morons. I am an appreciator of Kathleen Kennedy. I'm a fan of Kathleen Kennedy. Kathleen Kennedy, as far as I'm concerned, is a first ballot Hall of Famer, if there was a Hollywood Hall of Fame, per se. The greatest filmmaker of all time, Steven Spielberg, I always mention this, but it's worth saying every time, calls her the greatest producer in the history of Hollywood. And I just want to give a little bit of her resume. All right? Just a tiny bit of her resume. Do you know that 8 of her films that she's produced have been nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards? 8 of her films. Most producers would kill for one film in their lifetime to be nominated for Best Picture. She's had 8. And here's just a small taste of the films she's produced. Jurassic Park, Schindler's List, Twister. It's a diverse set of films too. Twister, The Sixth Sense, Seabiscuit, War of the Worlds, Munich, The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, Lincoln, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, Poltergeist, Gremlins, The Goonies, Back to the Future, The Color Purple, Empire of the Sun, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Cape Fear, Hook, Noises Off, Jurassic Park.
E.T..
That's like
Yeah.
a quarter.
No, I mean, she's got to be one of the most historic producers in Hollywood.
Yeah, that's
like,
just a
history.
quarter
Yeah.
of the films that she's produced. But as I mentioned on Open Mic the other day, just because you're good at one thing, even if you're the best in film, that doesn't mean you're going to be good at another job in film. The example I raised up was twofold. Greatest professional athlete in history is Wayne Gretzky. He wasn't a very good coach. He tried to coach the Phoenix Coyotes, didn't go so well. Greatest basketball player in history, Michael Jordan. One of the greatest of all time. Not a very good owner.
He didn't play baseball very well either.
Even the most hardcore of Jordan fans will tell you, wasn't a very good owner, right? Just because you're good at one thing doesn't mean you're going to be good at another. And just because you're not good at this new thing you're trying doesn't mean you weren't great at what you used to do. Kathleen Kennedy is arguably the greatest of all time, depending on who you ask, as a straight up producer in Hollywood. Steven Spielberg once said, she's the one who gives me the ability to bring my visions to life. But she was not a good head of a studio. I, like everybody else in the world, and I've mentioned this many times, was all for it. First, when George Lucas named her co-chair of Lucasfilm, and then after he sold it, named her as his successor. I was all for it. On paper, it was a great hire. Mm-hmm. On paper, it made sense. And it was worth giving a shot to. But as I've always said, the two most important jobs of the studio head are the two jobs she failed brutally at the most. Number one, have a plan. Not only did she not have a plan for the new Star Wars universe, she actively prevented others from actually formulating a plan, adopting instead the let's just play it as it goes mentality, which started off great with The Force Awakens. Again, highest grossing film in US box office history. Probably will never be beat. I mean, maybe it will, but it certainly hasn't been beaten in a lot of years since it's already came out. But then as each film progressed, you started to realize they'd actually had no idea where they were going to go with this. And then we ended up with The Rise of Skywalker, which is just one of the most dumbfoundingly ridiculous things I'd ever seen. Have there been some wins in her tenure as the head of Lucasfilm? Absolutely, there have been. 100% there have been some wins. Rogue One, it's one of my favorite Star Wars movies. Andor, best thing Star Wars has done since the original trilogy. I mean, Mandalorian, there have been absolutely some wins. I don't want to take that away from her. But the two most important jobs, number one, having a plan. She failed at that. The second, equally as important job is recruiting the right people around you and making sure that you are creatively on the same page with the storytellers you bring on board. In as much as we joke about Kevin Feige and Marvel and the Blade situation, in less time, Kathleen Kennedy has had 9 of them. 9 Blade situations. Anybody remember Guillermo del Toro's Jabba the Hutt project? Guillermo del Toro himself got on social media and said, I'm doing a Jabba the Hutt project with Star Wars, super excited about it. Then never happened. Kevin Feige, remember Kevin Feige was going to do Star Wars, everybody celebrated, popping bottles, blah, blah. Never happened. Rian Johnson had announced that they were going to do another trilogy. Guess what? Never happened. Taika Waititi, they announced from the skies, Taika Waititi's going to be doing a new film with us, blah, blah. Never happened. The Boba Fett movie. Remember that? They had the director and everything. Boom. Never happened. The Solo reshoots.
Yeah, with Gareth Edwards or no, it wasn't.
No. That Ron Howard brought on Lord and Miller.
Yeah.
Had done initially.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Lord and Miller done initially.
Yeah.
She was never on the same page creatively with Lord and Miller. If she had done her job and made sure that she and the filmmakers were on the same page, and Lord and Miller share equal blame in this. I'm not saying they don't. But they never would have got to the point where it's like, guys, you are making a totally different movie than you agreed to make and that we gave vision for. And they ended up having to scrap a bunch of that movie. They brought in Ron Howard, who salvaged it. I like Solo. Solo's a fun little movie. I like it.
Super fun.
Yeah.
But another example of that thing, Colin Trevorrow's Duel of the Fates movie. We got Colin Trevorrow. Oh, yeah, I hired him. He's doing it, blah, blah, blah. Oh, turns out we're not on the same page. Why didn't you fucking figure that out before you announced to the world that he was doing it and finished the screenplay? Oh, and let's not even forget about Patty Jenkins, Rogue Squadron. Rolled her all out onto a runway, had a life-size X-Wing fighter, big announcement, we're doing this. Oh, turns out we're not on the same page creatively. Maybe you should have thought of that before. Guys, the list goes on and on and on and on. The two most important jobs, if you're the studio head, number one, surround yourself with the right people. Make sure you have a plan. She hasn't done either of them. None of that takes away from her incredible, legendary career as a producer. None of that is taken away at all. But she fundamentally failed right from the get-go of the most important responsibilities of the studio. And quite frankly, for her own good and for the good of the studio, she should have been gone years ago. Years ago. Hell, I even told you guys back in 2023 that I feel like throwing this person under the bus, but I was even told by somebody very in the know at Disney that she was going to be gone at the end of 2023, 2024. It had been decided. Remember that? I told you guys that. She was going to be gone by the end of 2023, beginning of 2024. She was going to get a victory lap with Indiana Jones. And then somewhere at the end of the year, and guess what? The end of the year came and went, and she was still there.
Sources are saying it's because she didn't want to go out on a really big low.
Well, I mean,
There's also been some speculation that with the switch over from Chapek to Iger again, they wanted to just keep everything stable for a bit. But for whatever the reason, I got told, and I told my audience, beginning of 2024, end of 2023, Kathleen Kennedy's going to be gone. And it's like, we were singing, may old acquaintance be forgotten. Kathleen Kennedy was still there. Should have been done years ago, but now it's done. Look, again, it is with all reverence and respect to the career, the legendary career of Kathleen Kennedy. But in as much as hiring me to be your mechanic, I can't fix a car worth shit. That wouldn't take away that I'm pretty good at my real job. It is about damn time. This will, of course, open up the conversations about where do they go? Who do you bring on next? It's a big question around Disney because they're also looking for a new CEO. So Disney's got to find a new CEO to, like Bob Iger and the board. They're all looking for his next replacement. They would be good if they could get it done, get the Lucasfilm thing done before he goes. I've always said this, guys. When people ask me who should be the next head of Lucasfilm, I say somebody we've never heard of. Somebody who's just brilliant at business, brilliant at running large organizations, somebody who knows how to delegate, somebody who knows how to hire the right people around them, somebody we've never heard of because they're not famous, but is a brilliant business mind, brilliant at running organizations, and know how to facilitate other people's success. That's who they should get. Or maybe a John Favreau to do like, we were talking about this before the show started, maybe a John Favreau to do like a James Gunn over at DC. Have John Favreau be co-president and then bring in somebody else who's better at running the business of the company and let John Favreau kind of look after the creative direction, maybe write and direct one or two things himself, something like that. Again, my first vote would just be for somebody who knows how to run an organization and then hire creative people under them. But whatever. Again, with all due respect to Kathleen Kennedy and her amazing career that I will always be a fan of, it is about damn time. Anyway, Rob, I texted you this yesterday that she was gone. Your thoughts on her leaving? How are you feeling? How's you reacting to this?
Well, like
today?
you, I mean, she basically produced our childhoods. I mean, and I've always hated the fact that people who don't understand how movies get made would poo-poo the fact that, like, well, she produced Spielberg movies, but Spielberg was the real genius behind it. Yes,
yeah, tell me you know nothing about movies without telling me you know nothing about movies.
Steven Spielberg was able to be Steven Spielberg because he had Kathleen Kennedy producing his movies. Because she worked her way up like a lot of good people do from the basement and created she's a phenomenal producer, and her legacy is unimpeachable. But I'll tell you something. She took Star Wars and turned it into a TV brand. And I think that's the worst thing. I think that the Star Wars franchise has literally no excitement behind it. And the next Star Wars movie we're getting, the first in 6 years, is a TV show put on the big screen.
Yep.
And I think,
by the way, we're now on, like you said, we're now on 6 years without a Star Wars movie.
6 years without a Star Wars movie after Disney, which is honestly unconscionable. And the last Star Wars movie was $1 billion fall from the heights of the Star Wars movie that the director made before. And I think I'll tell you something, John. There's no excitement around Star Wars. Zero. There's no.
I don't know that I'd say zero, but it's diminished.
I just think people are like over it. I think it's going to take the thing about Star Wars as a brand, without Kathleen Kennedy, I don't think that there's anybody out there, even somebody like, if you brought in a Chris McQuarrie to write and direct a Star Wars movie, that would be exciting because he's a very smart guy. You have Tony Gilroy. Andor is the only thing exciting to me about Star Wars because you have an auteur. You have a writer-director who's in charge of that show, who had a vision for that show, who's building off of Rogue One. And if you take, I'm sure the first 2 seasons of Andor and Rogue One is probably the best thing overall to have come out of Kathleen Kennedy's tenure. And mostly it's because of one guy who is smart, who wrote and directed something in Andor and also came in and directed.
But to give credit where it's due, she's the one who hired him. She's the one who brought him in and all that kind of stuff.
And to be fair, she did a lot of things, like getting Lord Miller to do Solo on the surface was a really good idea. I was thinking out of the box. There was a lot going on that I think got derailed by Carrie Fisher's untimely death. I think the Disney overlords had a lot of things that they wanted. They wanted their own. They're like, we have to plant a flag and make our own Star Wars brand. So C-3PO is going to have a red arm, and the Millennium Falcon's going to have a rectangular dish, so they know it's our Star Wars. There was a lot of stuff that was happening above her head that was affecting her tenure. But at the end of the day, the Star Wars brand has been very, very diminished, and Disney needs. I don't even know if there's anybody that exists in Hollywood that can save Star Wars, to be honest. I don't know, because somebody would have to want to do it. And that puts somebody's in a position where they're basically taking the wreckage of one of the greatest franchises and looking at it and going, what do we do now?
If only there was a major Star Wars fan who has had record-setting success at running a genre brand. Oh, maybe Kevin Feige could take it over?
I mean,
it would be a lateral move for him, though. It would just be a lateral move. It wouldn't be a promotion.
I mean, maybe, but I mean, he's busy. He's got his own brand that he has to resurrect, and it'll be interesting. Like, I don't know, why would you want to go work on Star Wars, and especially with Disney overlords? I mean, if somebody could come in and have great creative freedom, maybe, but who wants to do that?
But no studio is going to give you pure creative freedom,
No,
especially not with. Well, it's not their most valuable IP anymore, but especially with something of a huge valuable IP. That's been the question for a long time, though, right? Like, in all the discussions that have been had about Kathleen Kennedy but who comes in and replaces her? And that's going to be key, because let's face it, the Star Wars fandom has scared off a lot of the top potential people.
Yeah.
Because there have been a lot of big creative people in Hollywood who'd say, I don't want to have anything to do with that toxic Star Wars fandom. I just don't want anything to do with it. So that's going to make the job a little bit harder. We'll see. Chris, I mean, this has been a day I've been waiting for a long time.
A lot of people have.
What's your reaction to it? And what happens next, do you think?
Well, I think the timing is that Star Wars is poised, the entire franchise is poised to launch into A New Hope. We have the opportunity to really do something great.
Nicely done.
You like that? So we can hopefully have a new era ushered in with a new studio head and really see Star Wars go to new heights and get back on the big screen and make this a entirely different kind of universe that still plays in that sandbox. You know, we're always talking about why are we still so close with the Skywalkers? Why are there only like 18 people in the galaxy? We've got this whole galaxy to play with, so hopefully we can go explore more of that. I'm very glad that you gave us all of Kathleen Kennedy's roses, though, as well, because sometimes this chat gets a little crazy.
They get
with-
blinders on.
Yeah, with, well, if I was running it, you're not. None of us are. And Kathleen Kennedy is a great producer. This was not the job for her.
No, it
right?
wasn't,
And
yeah.
a lot of times skill sets are just not laterally transitioned. This was not a good fit for her. But also, the woman's about to be 72. George Lucas sold Lucasfilms at 68. So she has earned her time to herself. She has a wonderful track record as a producer, and hopefully we just get somebody else in there who does justice to what we all want with our Star Wars fandom.
You know, it could be it could be a good time for her too, because follow me here. It, in theory, because we got nothing else coming out in 2025, right, from Star Wars, Andor could be her swan song. And like, if you want to go out on a high note, going out with Andor as the last thing you officially did that got released, you know what? As funny as it is to say, that would mean she gets to bookend with success. Her first thing was The Force
Yeah.
Awakens, broke the all-time box office, still the highest grossing film in the US box office in history, and I still think a very good movie. And then you end with Andor season 2. That could be great. You know what I really hope? I hope they get a new person in time to axe this idea of another Rey movie.
Well, I was going to ask you. That's what I want to ask you. What do you think the odds are that movie happens?
5%. I mean, listen, even within Kathleen Kennedy's Lucasfilm, there have to be people in that building that are going, "What, God, we should not be trying to come out with a Rey movie." That's just that we're doubling down on the divisiveness and everything. Like our fan base is very divided on that. I like the character very much. I love Daisy Ridley in the role, but even I think there would be a terrible idea for Star Wars and its fandom to do it. And I just got to hope that whoever they get to bring in to replace her, and I've seen some people in the live chat asking if she'll get to pick her successor. No chance in hell. She will not be the one picking her successor. I just hope that they get them in time, that they're not too far down the road on getting that Rey movie up and running. I hope it gets canceled and they go in a new direction.
I just think that's look, if they had somebody come in and like had a great take on Knights of the Old Republic
Oh,
and get in and plan
but remember
that.
they did. They had Benioff and Weiss, who they all said had this great pitch for an
right.
Old Republic
Yeah.
thing. That's another one that
And then
fell off the rails.
what's up with, like, didn't we also lose Levy? Wasn't Sean Levy?
Yep, Sean Levy. But
And James
technically speaking, they've never said that. Sean Levy's never said that thing's off.
Yeah.
Right.
But again, it's one of a dozen things that have
And
been,
Mangold.
we're going to do this. And yet we never see anything manifest.
I wonder if they go back and try to reconnect with any of these directors.
Depends on who the new head is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting because I thought Skeleton Crew was respectable. You know,
Yeah.
I liked it. I thought it was good. But you know,
I love Skeleton Crew personally.
it just didn't do anything for the brand.
No.
It didn't create any new excitement. I mean, you really need to take Star Wars and pretend there isn't any Star Wars and start from scratch. Now, I don't mean to get rid of all the canon of Star Wars, but just leave everything behind.
Tell a story that could exist outside of Star Wars regardless.
Yes. You need to go back and start again. Start anew.
Jump ahead 100 years.
And I don't think Dave Filoni is the guy to do that.
I absolutely don't think Dave. I really respect Dave Filoni.
I do too.
He is not the guy to be the head of Lucasfilm
No.
at all.
No.
But it's going to be really interesting to see how this goes. Guys, the question is for you. All joking aside, I have a huge amount of respect for Kathleen Kennedy. I really, really do. But again, this was the wrong job for her. Just like owning a team was the wrong job for Michael Jordan. Doesn't take away how great he was at what he used to do. It's that this was clearly not the thing for her, and it's time for her to go. And like Chris pointed out, man, she's earned her retirement. By the way, I don't believe she's retiring. I believe she'll produce
She'll
a
probably
couple
do
more.
something else,
She'll
yeah.
produce some other things
she's
later
married
on.
to Frank Marshall.
I know. I mean,
there's
they're
Jurassic
a power
Park.
couple.
They got they're
They're a power
She'll
couple.
still produce more, and I hope that she does. But how do you feel about this? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, It's time for us to move on to the most important part of our show, which is taking your live comments and questions. But before we do, we're going to take another quick second to thank another sponsor of today's episode, our friends at NordVPN. We want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's episode, NordVPN. All right, let's be real. There's nothing worse than wanting to stream your favorite show or watch a live game only to find out it's blocked in your country. But guess what? With NordVPN, that is never a problem. With just one click, you can switch your virtual location and access content from anywhere in the world. I have loved using NordVPN. Whether I'm traveling and using public Wi-Fi or just shopping online, NordVPN keeps my personal info safe and private. By switching my location, I can even save money on flights, hotels, and subscriptions. It's like a cheat code for getting the best deals. NordVPN is the fastest VPN in the world, so there's no buffering when I'm streaming. Plus, their threat protection feature blocks malware, trackers, and phishing attempts, keeping my devices safe 24/7. And with just one account, I can protect up to 10 devices, so my whole setup is covered. So to get the best discount on your NordVPN plan, head to nordvpn.com/John Campea, and our link will even give you 4 extra months for free on the 2-year plan. Plus, there's no risk with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. Links in the description. Check it out now. And thank you to our friends at NordVPN for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast. Ray Ora is straggled into the office here, taking his seat. And now we're going to get over to the most important part of our show, which again is taking your live comments and questions. So Jonathan, what we got up first?
Oh, first off, I just want to call out the Batman over a series of super chats has given us $94.
Oh, just in chat badges?
Yeah.
Oh,
so yeah,
you know why? Because I put the Batman on my top 5 list.
That started it, and then also with Kathleen Kennedy a little more, with that too. So yeah.
Well, thank you, the Batman, for supporting what we do here. We appreciate that. Without even a comment, they were it was just super chat badges. Just badges. Thank you, Batman, for supporting us, man. That's awesome. Thank you so much, dude.
First up, we got Daniel, who says, have you seen the trailers for the new Wheel of Time season? As a big fan of the books, the first season of the show was quite rocky, but season 2 is a huge improvement. Season 3 looks like they might be hitting their stride. March 13th premiere.
I have not seen the trailer for the new season, but I am in complete agreement with you. The first season I thought was decent, but rocky. Rocky's a great way to express it. It didn't flow. You know what I mean? It didn't feel like they had everything together yet. Season 2, much like freaking Lord of the Rings, the season 2 I thought was a considerable improvement. Again, it's not one of my top absolute favorite shows on TV, but I do enjoy it. I like it a lot. And the lead,
oh boy, I can't even
from
Rosamund Pike.
Rosamund Pike, thank you. She's great in it. So I haven't seen the trailer yet, but I will be looking forward to watching the show. All right, what's next?
We got K Nora. Do you think we'll see the Oscars broadcast live on Netflix within the next 5 years? Also, please tell Rob that his favorite Blackpink member will be performing on this year's Oscars.
They're performing in LA in a little bit too. So I'm sure Rob probably has his tickets for that already. If Rob appreciates anything besides the steelbooks, it's K-pop. So I think you're going to see, just like how the Super Bowl got streamed now, whether it's Netflix or Peacock or HBO Max or Paramount Plus, yeah, I think forget the next 5. I think within the next 2, we could be seeing the Oscars getting streamed, or Disney Plus or something like that. I think we'll probably be there, and definitely Netflix will be one of those contenders. All right, what's next?
Johnny Quantum with a 2-parter. Hey crew, I always have something on in the background, thanks streaming. Today I watched Tank Girl. It's a post-apocalyptic.
Oh yeah, I remember Tank Girl.
Very 90s. A 90s R-rated comic book movie featuring 2 dance numbers and one of the worst movies I've ever seen.
It's pretty terrible.
Though they tried so hard. Starring Lori Petty, Naomi Watts, Malcolm McDowell, Ann Cusack, and as well as Ice-T, Doug Jones, Jeff Kober, Reg E. Kathy, and Iggy Pop as human-animal hybrids. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it is not a good looking movie, and it is not a good movie. But it's one of those kinds of movies that you're like, I'll watch that. It is so bloody ridiculous. I think This is the first time anybody's brought up or asked a question about Tank Girl on this. So flowers to you for that, but I completely agree.
Yeah.
All right, what's next?
Early access screenings. Hey, John, there's early access screenings for Novocaine Saturday, March 8th at 7 p.m. Movie officially comes out on the 14th. I freaking love these early screenings. Makes me feel like a critic. I went on a few last year, those being Red One, The Fall Guy, and Dune Part 2.
Yep, and I got tickets to go see that
did
early
you?
Novocaine, and then I had to cancel them because I forgot we've got an outing with friends that night to go to an LA Kings game.
Oh, nice. All right.
If it was just Ann and I going,
Yeah.
like we love going to Kings games. If it was
Yeah.
just Ann and I going, we would cancel. But it's like a group night out,
And you know,
so we got to go.
I feel like the atmosphere at Kings games are nothing against the Lakers or Clippers. Like, it's great. The audience is great, but man, the crowd at Kings games are so fun. They get so into it.
It's great.
Yeah.
There is nothing what a lot of people have learned because of the Four Nations tournament and the Canada US stuff. There's nothing like live hockey, man. But I will say this. Ann and I have gone to Kings games and Laker games and all that kind of stuff. But do you want to know what the most energetic, rowdy, loud, enthusiastic crowd I've ever seen at Staples Center?
Galaxy.
Or now known as the Crypto?
Yeah.
No, not Galaxy was great too.
yeah.
And Ann and I have gone to LAFC games. That was rowdy. But I've never seen in LA a sports crowd so energized as when Indiana came to play the LA Sparks. WNBA. Ann and I went to the WNBA game because Caitlin Clark was coming to town.
Right.
Guys, seriously, you think, oh, I'm just exaggerating or I'm just joking. Listen to me. I have never in LA seen an environment that charged, that excited, and that stadium was packed. And like every time Caitlin Clark would touch the ball or sink a three from another postal code, it was just like Ann and I am not a WNBA guy, but Ann and I looked at each other and we were like, we're going to have to go to some more of these games because the tickets are cheap and the environment was electric. And yeah, I'm definitely going to get tickets to go to the next Caitlin Clark game. I mean, this girl's a phenom. Yeah. Anyway. All right. What's next?
Kareem has a 4-parter movie and TV milestone anniversaries. We've done this one before. This month, up to 30 years. 25 years ago was Birds of Prey. Sonic the Hedgehog. Amazing in 5 years they can have a trilogy done.
They've already got the trilogy. Yeah.
Invisible Man. Then we go to 10 years ago, Jupiter Ascending. The SpongeBob movie I have good memories of. 50 Shades of Grey, Kingsman, The Secret Service. The first one was great. Fresh Off the Boat.
Fresh Off the Boat was 10 years ago?
Crazy,
Wow.
right? Better Call Saul. And Schitt's Creek surprised me.
That makes sense because that's when it started.
Yeah.
By the way, just a side note, guys, honestly, one of the best television shows ever made is Schitt's Creek. And I was late to it. It's a little Canadian-made show.
Yeah.
As Steve Martin says, Martin Short is the only Canadian that wasn't in Schitt's Creek.
Yeah, that's right.
And it became the first Emmy show in history to sweep. It won Best Show, Best Director, Best Writer, Best Lead Actor, Best Lead Actress, Best Supporting Actor, Best Supporting Actress. No show's ever done it before, and I doubt any show will ever do it again. If you haven't watched it, I believe it's on Netflix. Do yourself a favor, watch Schitt's Creek. The first 2 episodes aren't as great as everything else. The first 2 episodes are just getting you to get to know the characters a little bit, getting you to understand the environment. It might seem a little silly at first, but believe me, once you get into episodes 3, 4, 5, and now you've got all that foundation stuff and you start to understand the characters, it is simply one of the most entertaining shows I've ever seen. Like, you got to watch Schitt's Creek.
That's how I feel about Arrested Development. When people first get in, the first couple
A
episodes
lot of people
are
say
kind
that about Arrested Development.
kind of weird, kind of like not that funny, and then man, does it get good. So it goes on. So now 15 years ago, Percy Jackson and the Olympians, and then 20 years ago, Hitch, Constantine, Son of the Mask, American Dad, Robot Chicken. Crazy 20 years ago on Robot Chicken. Avatar: The Last Airbender. 25 years ago this week would have been Pitch Black. Reindeer Games. And then 30 years ago, the big one, Billy Madison, Quick and the Dead. Also, fun fact, he says Bitch Slap with Aaron Cummings had limited U.S. release 15 years ago in 2010.
Yep, it certainly did. That was the movie. Bitch Slap was the movie that basically was the reason I met Aaron Cummings. I was doing my Masters of the Web stuff at what's the name of the event? Comic-Con. I was doing my big thing at Comic-Con, and because Bitch Slap was kind of a smaller film and they were just doing what they could to get people to have an awareness of the film, the whole cast of Bitch Slap, they came to my panel that I did at Comic-Con, and they just kind of came up. The three main actresses, here they are. They also came to our party. I threw this Masters of the Web party every year. So the cast, there's Aaron there. That was the weekend Aaron and I first met, was there. And then you got America is in between me and Aaron there. And then Julia Voth, another good Canadian girl, Julia was also in my movie. Aaron and Julia ended up both being in my little movie that I made. And that was the first weekend Aaron and I met. And then we just became friends, and we've been friends for, God, when was that? 2010?
Must have been.
Is that what it said on the thing there? It's 2010 was the thing?
Oh, I can't see the...
But I mean, in the message that he wrote. Did you say it was like 2010 that happened?
It was 2010.
Yeah, and we've been friends for 15 years, ever since that happened. Amazing. All right, what's next?
Lord Helmet, even the most ardent defenders of Disney Star Wars will agree that Kathleen Kennedy finally stepping down is the right decision. John, in your opinion, how badly has she damaged her once credible legacy in Hollywood with her tenure at Lucasfilm?
Honestly, none.
You don't.
This was a terrible thing, but let me ask you this question. How bad was Michael Jordan's legacy damaged for his ownership of the Charlotte Hornets? None. Nobody looks at Michael Jordan's career and think badly of his career because of what he did as an owner.
Yeah, it doesn't
Nobody
write
does.
history.
How bad has Wayne Gretzky's legacy been damaged because he wasn't a very successful coach? None.
No one even remembers he was a coach, really.
No. Honestly, long term, there was that one period when she was the president of Lucasfilm, but none of that takes away from her career as a producer. And again, I am very enthusiastic about the fact that she's finally leaving this job, but it doesn't affect her legacy as a producer, as one of the greatest of all time, just like the legacies of those other guys I mentioned weren't really hurt. So long term, I really don't think at all. All right. Well, Michael on the live show said, but it takes away her legacy as a studio head. She had no legacy. This was the only studio head job she had.
Yeah, that was her job.
But yes, Michael Jordan has a bad legacy as a team owner, but nobody thinks about that. They only think about his actual career. And long term, that's all people will really think about when they think of Kathleen Kennedy.
Let's be fair, there were still wins during her tenure. So.
And that's the other thing, that as critical as I have always been of her running Lucasfilm, I am always quick to point out that within her shepherding Lucasfilm, there have been big wins. Rogue One is a big win.
Yeah.
Andor is a big win. Mandalorian, I'm not a big fan of the last season, but overall, Mandalorian, big win, right? There have been big wins, and I'm not taking that away from her. But overall,
it's not a winning
property is in a lesser position now than when she took it over. And that's the bottom line. Overall, there have been wins, but the property is in a lesser place now than it was when she first took over. And that's why we need somebody new. All right, what's next?
Okay, Save Legends has a two-parter. Whoever takes over at Lucasfilm is going to have a devil of a time trying to right the ship. Who do you think is up to the task? I'd be happy with anyone so long as they end all the Last Jedi Acolyte style examination, deconstruction, criticism of the Jedi. Lucas and Filoni already did all that and did it better in the prequels and the Clone Wars animated series. I think audiences are officially over it.
First of all, guys, stop with the history writing. The prequels suck ass. Stop with this rewriting of history stuff. The prequels suck ass. All right? Like the prequels were so bad. You literally had people coming out of the theaters who had dressed up as Jedi and literally burning their Jedi robes on the streets. People started making documentaries about the death of Star Wars. Stop with this history writing. The prequels sucked. Anyway, let's keep going here.
I think audiences are officially over it and want Star Wars stories to have more good guys and less quote unquote good guys, if you know what I mean.
I disagree. Now, here's what I mean by I disagree. The problem with a lot of the Star Wars stuff, like Acolyte and things like that, wasn't because it's taking a more critical look at the Jedi. That's not why the show is bad. The show is bad because the show is bad. If they had made a good show, if they had made a compelling show with more interesting characters and a better, I mean, ultimately, like you look at the Acolyte, ultimately the big mystery was a misunderstanding.
Yeah.
It was literally like, wait a minute, this whole buildup of all this mystery, it ultimately came down to it was a misunderstanding. Like if they had made a compelling show with a great narrative, wonderful B and C level storylines with compelling characters, the fact that it was like a different look at the show, none of that would have been a problem. They just fundamentally made bad crap.
Yeah.
And if they had made good stuff, like it's not about formula. People think it's a formula. Oh, well, you know, the problem with the Acolyte was it took a critical look at the, no. That still could have been great. It could have been great, but it wasn't. It was terrible. And that ultimately was the problem. Anyway. All right, what's next?
Brent says, what's the reasoning for most big blockbuster movies coming out in the summer? Wintertime seems like better time to be inside watching movies.
That's changing now. It's more and more, a lot of the huge blockbusters do come out at Christmas time. It used to be that the summer blockbuster, and it still is a big thing, summer blockbuster season was big. Why? Because a lot of people are on holidays.
Yeah.
People are
Kids at
going to have more free time to go to the movies, stuff like that. So summer became like the blockbuster season.
Free
But
air conditioning.
yeah, free air conditioning. But over like the last 10 years, really, that's really started to shift. There's really not really a dumping ground anymore either. Like the movie studios are just kind of realizing the way culture works now is almost, there are still some better times. Summer is still a better time.
Yeah.
Christmas season is clearly a big winner. That's when more people go to the movies. But other than that, we've had a number of films released all across the calendar that have been bigger, but it did used to be that way. All right, what's next?
Banshees of Ed Sheeran says, I recently rewatched the Star Wars saga and I realized that in Lucas episodes, the story was linear, but the sequels had flashbacks, cutaways, and dream sequences. I found that interesting. And no, I didn't watch episode 9. I just listened to Rob's version.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like The Godfather Part 2, though. Like no Star Wars movies like that literally, The Godfather Part 2 tells you like 20 minutes of story here in the present, then goes back for 20 minutes of story in the past, then comes back to the present, then goes back to... It's not like that. Like there are flashbacks and stuff like that, but fundamentally, it's still very linearly told on a fundamental basis. A couple of the stuff they've done on the shows have been a little bit different, but still quite linear, I think. All right, what's next?
All right. Who even wrote this? Says,
Oh, wait, I do want to say that Umang in the live chat did point out they did that in the Boba Fett show.
Right.
It wasn't like 20 years flashback. It was only like, hey, a few weeks ago, but still that was a little bit more like that. You're right. And like I said, they've done that a little bit more in the shows, but for the most part, the movies are still basically stayed pretty linear. All right. Sorry, what was next?
Okay, who even wrote this, right? Two-parter. Random. I'm sorry, I will never forgive how they treated Quicksilver in the WandaVision show. I feel like no one talks about it, but they fumbled so hard.
No, they didn't.
Best speedster in X-Men, but no, it's a dude named Ralph Boner. Why even bring the same actor out? It was complete trash.
No, it wasn't.
And there's no defending it, John. I hope they can just recast him. The writers thought they were being funny, but it was, I don't know, just not good.
Yes,
but,
it was.
hey, the multiverse exists so they can find someone else. To me, it
First
should
of
have
all, they in order for them to have done Quicksilver dirty, it would have had to have actually been Quicksilver.
It wasn't Ricky Ticky.
And it wasn't Quicksilver. That's the point. And the impact of having, why am I freezing on the actor's name?
Oh, that plate that was in
Evan Tanner or
No, it wasn't.
Evan,
it.
what's his name?
Isn't it Evan something?
Evan something Evans. So,
Yes, it's Evan something.
oh,
Evan Peters.
Peters, yeah.
Evan Peters, Tanner.
By the way, the two Quicksilvers were both in Kick-Ass together. They were
Yes.
best friends in
Yes.
Kick-Ass, right? Bringing Evan Peters in was a stroke of genius. It was a stroke of genius. And it worked. It got the whole internet buzzing and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
And
Everyone
again, it
thought
wasn't.
the X-Men are in the universe now.
And people were just mad that their theory was wrong. Because I remember when he came in, I told everybody, I remember we were doing our WandaVision after shows. I said, he's not actually Quicksilver. And there was, yes, it is, John. It's totally the Quicksilver from the, and I was like,
It was
it's
a
not going to be
misdirect.
him. And I said that I said on the after show, I said, it's not going to be him. You wait and see. And people just got really pissed off. Kind of like when I told everybody years before the end of Game of Thrones, Daenerys, she's Breaking Bad. She's an asshole. She's a jerk. They're clearly telegraphing she's going to break bad. And everybody said, no, she's not. She's the mother of dragons. She's the breaker of chains, John. She's not going to break bad. And I told everybody years in advance, she's breaking bad.
She was the offspring of the Mad King.
Yeah, she comes from a Targaryen. Anyway, so when that happened on the show, I said, he's not the Quicksilver from the Fox universe. And everybody, yeah, she is. And people were just mad that he wasn't. But I thought it was a brilliant stroke of brilliance. It was genius. As a fan of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I thought it was hilarious and awesome. Do I think the joke, his last name was Boner? No, that was dumb. They should have made his name something else. But who cares? That was just one quick gag. Overall, it was a genius move. And I loved it. And because it wasn't actually Quicksilver, the door is still open that we can still get a Quicksilver in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. That's still there. So they didn't ruin Quicksilver because that wasn't Quicksilver. It's kind of like with Ben Kingsley in Iron Man 3.
Yeah, he wasn't the
Mandarin.
He wasn't the
Mandarin.
Mandarin. Like you can't say they ruined Mandarin. He wasn't Mandarin. And then later, we did get the Mandarin, and he was awesome. So yeah, it's still there. All right, what's next?
Ryan, the movie guys here, says, rumor mill, I've seen a report going around about Gareth Edwards is being eyed for Children of Dune, which would be Dune 4. Whilst I don't believe this report, it brings up a great topic. I love Gareth's work. He's incredibly underrated, Godzilla 2014 especially. But the Villeneuve not directing, I can't imagine any other filmmaker of this quality to be able to tackle such a tough piece of source material. I love the Dune books, but to me, after Messiah, it gets messy. What do you guys think of Gareth Edwards for Dune?
No, just ignore that stupid rumor. Just ignore it. They haven't even gone into production on the new movie. No, there's absolutely no credibility to this. I mean, I've not heard that rumor myself. I'm not trying to speak ill of whoever is spreading that rumor. I'm not trying, because I don't know who did it. This is the first I'm hearing of this. But come on, guys, common sense. Villeneuve hasn't even started pre-production. He's still in the writing phase. I mean, they are going to start shooting this year sometime, but you think they're already lining up for a director for a movie that might be in 4 years? Yeah, I like Gareth Edwards a lot. But yeah, don't give any credibility to this right now. All right, what's next?
Sprosa says, hi, John, Jonathan, Ray, and others. This year I decided to launch a movie review channel and already have reviews up for Wolfman, Companion, The Monkey. Love what you do.
I think listen, I've said for a long time, I think every movie fan should start, because it's free, should start a podcast, a blog, or a YouTube channel. Because it's, number one, a way for you to contribute to the fan community. And number two, it just gets you more involved with the object of your fandom. And I think it's a great thing that everyone should do it. So good on you for doing it. All right, what's next?
CM Waters says, what people want from the multiverse that they were probably never going to get in the first place is more like a cinematic version of Fortnite, just straight up portraying a multiverse and dooming all of existence. It's what made it so boring.
I mean, yeah, the thing is, when a lot of people talk about what they would like to see in something that's a multiverse thing, it really comes out more as something that would make a great YouTube short video. Like, what you want to see is this 10 or 15 minute fight, right? You want to see a movie version of the airport scene in Captain America Civil War, which is a great scene, but it's a scene, right? Yeah, I've never liked multiverse. Not that there haven't been good things done with multiverse. There absolutely has. But just overall, I cannot wait for the multiverse to be over. I cannot wait for them to move past the multiverse phase. I'm very excited about it. Again, not that they can't do something great with it, but I'm ready for multiverse to be over. All right, what's next?
CEO Talkin says, John, hey, John and crew, been a fan for years, but never asked a question until now. Exciting. I was wondering, when do you think the next Superman trailer is going to release, and what do you expect from the second trailer? P.S. Wish I was able to tip more.
Oh no, just thank you for being a part of our community. I suspect because we're almost in March. We're almost in March.
Yeah.
I suspect in March we're going to get the next trailer. Now, CinemaCon starts at the end of March.
Yeah.
It is possible they hold off on dropping a new trailer to drop it at CinemaCon. My personal guess is that we'll get a new trailer earlier than that, like sometime in mid-March. I still think they're going to show us Superman at cinema. I think they're going to show us the movie. Again, I have nothing to base that on. That is pure speculation on my part. Could be 1,000% wrong. I'm just saying, I think there's a chance we get that. So I think sometime in mid to late March would be my guess. Because remember, then in the traditional thing, you get 3 main trailers.
Which is like a month.
We had the first one. The movie's coming out in July. So I think the second will drop in March. And then probably sometime in May or June, we'll get the third May one.
That last one will definitely be out.
Now, what am I expecting from it? The first one was great. It was just visuals. Here's a taste of the aesthetic of the movie. That's what a first trailer should be. The second one now, give us a bit of the story.
Yeah.
What is this movie going to be about?
Dialogue. We need dialogue.
Start giving us a little bit about what the movie is now about. So that's what I'm going to be expecting from the second one. All right, what's next?
Okay, we got, let's see, did I read this one? Yeah, okay. So Daniel says, hi, John and crew. It's me, Daniel. Won't be able to go to CinemaCon this year because last year a stalker doxed me and I got fired from my job.
Oh, no.
What?
Man, it sucks. I got a new job now, but couldn't afford since I start late. Well, hope to go there and see you guys again next year. That sucks. That's awful.
Why would you get why would somebody fire you just because you got doxxed?
Yeah, I know.
That's not... Well, listen, if some place is going to fire you because of something else somebody else did
to you,
then you don't want to work for those people anyway.
Yeah.
Screw those people. So I'm glad you got another job, and hopefully we will try to bring CinemaCon to you. We are going to do our best, like we do every year, to try to cover it and talk about everything in such a way that it'll make you feel like you were actually there. But yeah, if some company's going to fire you because of something stupid that somebody else did, yeah, screw them. You don't want to be working for them anyway. All right, what's next?
Oh, hang on. Sorry, I just clicked off here by accident. Let's see. Sam Keeps Shield Warm says, I wish the political accusation reasoning for disliking Brave New World wasn't happening. Some just don't like it as a movie and vehicle of cinematic versions. Brave New World shows comics adaptations aren't always best. Instead of hybrid Falcon Cap, make Sam a super strong as Cap. I think that's like a separate thought.
Yeah, I mean, look, here's the reality of today's fandom. Whenever somebody doesn't like a movie, somebody who does is going to accuse you of not liking it for some made-up reasons. Whenever you like a movie, somebody who doesn't like it is just going to say you're liking it for some made-up reasons. That's the nature of today's movie fandom. And one of the things that really sucks about fandom today is everybody's so weak-minded that they make up excuses for why somebody likes a movie they don't like or doesn't like a movie they do. Instead of just understanding all film is subjective. Maybe they say they didn't like the movie because they watched it and they just didn't like it. Maybe they said they liked the movie because they just watched it and they liked it. But instead, weak-minded, pathetic losers have to make up excuses. Captain America 4 was just not a very good movie. Now, maybe you saw it, and to you it was, and that's great. You watched and you liked it. I'm not going to accuse you of being paid off by Anthony Mackie to say that. I'm just going to assume if you say you liked the movie, it's because you watched it and you liked it. Just like I'd say I didn't like the movie very much simply because I watched it and I just didn't think it was very good. And that's the beautiful thing about film. The beautiful thing about film is the pure subjectivity of it. The beautiful thing about film is that every single one of us, because it's art, has a unique experience with it that's going to be a little bit different than the experience that the person next to us has with it. And that's not a bad thing. That's a great thing. That's something we should embrace and celebrate. Now, sometimes people come out and straight up say they didn't like it because of a stupid reason. Mm-hmm. Well, then that's them admitting it. But I mean, never assume that if somebody didn't like it, it was like, again, if somebody comes out and says, I just don't like black people in movies. Well, then you just gave yourself away. But I mean, if somebody likes a movie, just assume it's because they watched it and had a different experience than you. And that's a thing we should celebrate. Anyway, what's next?
Okay, we got Curious Chris. Hi all. I saw Paddington 3 last night in theaters. While I agree that it didn't quite reach the heights of the first two, it was still absolutely delightful. The ending had me, a grown-ass man weeping like a baby. Banderas and the nun were great too.
I'll tell you what, man. My wife Anne's face was like, the tears from going down her face. She cried numerous times through it. And I'll tell you, I'm right there with you. Right near the end part. For those of you who've seen the movie, you know what we're talking about. I was getting really choked up. I didn't break into all out crying like I have in like Life is Beautiful or anything, but I was getting choked up. Like even my breathing was getting a little bit as I'm watching it. It was beautiful. And again, it wasn't as good as the first two, but it was still beautiful and great. Did you get around to seeing Paddington 3, Ray?
No, not yet. It's all right.
You would really like it.
Yeah.
I thought for sure you did go see it.
Yeah, I'll probably go see it this weekend.
Yeah. All right. What's next?
$20 tip from Don't Drop the Burger.
Oh, thank you, man. Appreciate that.
How emotional would it be to see Sam Wilson's Captain America take the super soldier serum in the heat of battle due to the teammates getting poorly beaten in Secret Wars? More specifically, Bucky. Just thinking about how it gets me emotional. Thoughts. He'd have to have it on him.
I mean, it's
for something that he's declined. He'd have to have that on him.
Yeah, it's kind of too late. And there is, they say there's no more super soldier serum. So it's not like he's walking around with a vial of it. He had an opportunity. He said, no, they've made that a part of the character now. Again, the super soldier serum, while I do think they should have had Sam take it before, the super soldier serum is also in danger of becoming the next Iron Man suits, right? Like everybody in the cinematic universe has to be an Iron Man now. Falcon basically has an Iron Man suit. Captain America, Sam, basically has an Iron Man suit. Spider-Man basically had an Iron Man suit. Even the Dora Milaje now have Iron Man suits. At the same time, the super soldier serum, just give anybody a super soldier serum, right? You got John Walker, Walmart Captain America with the super soldier serum. You got Bucky's got the super soldier serum. Now you've had this. So you'd be a little bit in danger of that as well. I admit you'd be a little bit in danger of that, but yeah, I don't think that would work in a scene. I don't know that would, because he'd be taken in the middle of his fight, but he wouldn't know how to handle himself yet. Because remember in Captain America, in Captain America, the First Avenger, when Steve first got the super soldier serum and he starts chasing down that Hydra agent, like he was slipping and kind of didn't understand his own speed. And he was like, didn't quite know how to use these new abilities. So I think if Sam were to suddenly take that in the middle of, like, say, an endgame fight, it might not work out so well for him. Anyway.
And yeah, at this point, it's just so beleaguered. It's like I don't want any more of this, like, he's struggling with whether he should take the serum or not.
I know, that was one of the dumbest things in this one, because they already did that in Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Exactly. It's like, you either should have done it or not do it. This is your decision. Let's move forward.
All right, what's next?
Rebel Taker. The Star Wars fandom is about to become even more hellish than usual because the news about Kennedy leaving, the worst people imaginable are about to feel vindicated and like they've achieved a victory. They didn't achieve anything. Just sat on their couch.
Yeah.
Not saying that means she should stay forever, but still.
Well, I mean, if any of those people, they will never admit this, of course, but if any of them had any influence, Kathleen Kennedy would have been fired 3 years ago. Now, listen, the thing is, I happen to agree for different reasons that she should have been fired 3 years ago or 4 years ago or 5 years ago. I mean, so the reality is, if influencers like people like myself who thought she should be gone, or the toxic cesspool people who just spit vitriol. If any of those people, I mean, myself included, wanted to claim victory, or if any of us had any actual real influence over it, she would have been fired 4 or 5 years ago. But she wasn't fired 4 or 5 years ago. Me saying she should have been fired had nothing to do with her leaving. That toxic cesspool group of people, they clearly had no influence on her leaving now. If we did, it would have been 5 years ago. And said now, as Chris, I'm glad Chris pointed this out, she's 72 years old. She's now 4 years older than George Lucas was when he got out. She's retiring. I still think she'll produce, but she's retiring. So no, neither myself nor any other influencer, if anybody tries to claim like, we did this,
Yeah.
then
Get a life.
they are, listen, they're fucking stupid morons if they try to claim that. They can be happy, like I am, that she's leaving, because I think that's good for Star Wars, that she's leaving. Totally good to be happy. But if anybody tries to claim some kind of victory or credit for this, say, sorry, Sparky, you're about 5 years too late.
Yeah.
If you had any real influence, just like I have no real influence, if any of us had any real influence, Kathleen Kennedy would have been gone 5 years ago and not now when she's 72 years old and saying she's going to retire. Anyway, what's next?
Mr. Snivy says, can you think of any film franchises that kind of did the same thing over and over again in each installment? Some examples would be Transformers, Despicable Me, Ghostbusters, Pirates of the Caribbean, etc. I know formulas can work, but at least use variety. Where it was sort of the same thing again and again and again.
Yeah, but the thing is, you also have to recognize when something's working, right? Like, look, I think every Transformers movie after the first one and until Bumblebee completely sucked. But it's hard for the studio to get away from whatever it was they were doing because those films were making a lot of money. Pirates of the Caribbean got consistently worse after the first brilliant film, but they were working. So you don't deviate from that. Kind of like zombie movies. They're all the same. They really are, but some do it better than others. So but see, you take something like Star Wars. Star Wars is different. Because while a James Bond movie is always about James Bond, the Star Wars universe, you can do anything. You can tell any kind of story you want with any characters you want to create. It's not the same with Pirates of the Caribbean. It's not the same with James Bond. It's not the same with Despicable Me, right? You have these characters, so you got to make it about these characters, and there's a formula that works, so you kind of stick to doing it. But in something like Star Wars, you can literally make a movie about anything, and it's time for them to embrace that. And that's why I loved Skeleton Crew so much. And then you get something that's completely different from Skeleton Crew, like Andor, which is so successful. So they need to really embrace the vastness of the universe that George Lucas created and take advantage of it. All right, what's next?
Kendall says, sup, haven't heard you discuss anything from DC Studios announcements.
Because there was no announcements.
James Gunn talked about a lot of stuff, including Authority and Waller being on back burner, and Batman might not be up sooner than his actual movie, or might show up sooner than his actual movie. Thoughts? Thought there'd be a segment.
About what? Like literally nothing came out of that little news conference they did. There is nothing new coming that we didn't already know about. We all kind of figured certain things had been delayed. Like literally, like I'm a big James Gunn fan, and I'm very excited about the future of the DCU. But that whole press conference was a big nothing burger. I mean, it's fine. They held a press conference. They updated everybody. But there was nothing new, nothing significant. So I really didn't see a reason to cover it at all, because there was like literally nothing to cover really. Anyway. All right, what's next?
I missed Superman here. It's on the same thing as the press release. So did you see the press release with James Gunn over the weekend? Some of his comments about Andy directing the new Batman movie had me questioning if he'll do it. He said something along the lines of, once the script is done, we'll see if he directs.
Oh, hey, listen, again, I've been saying that for weeks now. I've been saying for weeks, I do not expect that Andy Muschietti will actually end up directing this movie. It's just publicly the cracks the disconnect between him and James Gunn have become apparent. Like when you get on social media and say, well, my Batman movie's been delayed. And then James Gunn says, the Batman movie has not been delayed. Like, so I've been saying for a while. So look, he could still end up directing it, but I've been saying for a while, I won't be surprised at all if he doesn't end up directing it. All right, what's next?
The Bobster. Hi, everyone. Just a proud dad here who beams every time you mention projects like Only Murders, Paradise, Daredevil, and Avatar 3, as my son has worked on the music for all of those projects.
Oh, that's awesome.
Right. Love having a kid in the biz. And let me just tell you something, Bobster. I typically will skip over intros to movie, TV shows, but I love the intro music to Only Murders so much that I let it play every time.
It is pretty good, isn't
Yeah.
it? First of all, that's awesome. Like when I know anybody that is remotely involved in a particular movie, I feel a sense of pride about it. I don't know why. To actually have a kid of yours involved, that's awesome, man. So congratulations. That's great. All right, what's next?
Andy Newton says, pop champagne, y'all. Kay Kennedy, aka the Aaron Rodgers of Star Wars.
I wouldn't say she's the Aaron, again, because she's had some wins.
And she also
Aaron
doesn't-
Rodgers did not.
And she also doesn't throw people under the bus like Aaron Rodgers
Okay,
has.
you know what? I think that is an incredibly important thing to note. Unlike some other directors, unlike some other executives, never once, and you gotta give her this. And as much as I count her time as the head of Lucasfilm an overall massive failure, never once in the however many years has she been there, have we ever heard Kathleen Kennedy ever come out and blame the failure of something on somebody else. I've seen many directors do that. I've seen several movie executives do that. To her credit, never once have we ever heard Kathleen Kennedy come out and say, well, the reason that movie lost money is because the writer we had. The reason that movie didn't make money is because this director we hired. Never once have I heard Kathleen Kennedy ever blame or throw anybody else under the bus for any of the shortcomings in Lucasfilm. That doesn't take away the massive shortcomings of Lucasfilm, but at least she hasn't done that, which I've seen some other directors and filmmakers do.
I think they call that being professional.
Yeah, go figure. Even though she didn't do the job well, she acted as a professional the whole time. She really did.
Depending on where Star Wars goes after she leaves, there might be a time where many of us appreciate her a lot more than we did when she was there. Because if it goes downhill from here, let's say Star Wars gets worse.
Oh yeah.
You may kind of regret her. Yeah, I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows, man?
Sort of the devil you know
she
situation.
Yeah, the devil. Yeah.
And she did what she wanted to do. She thought would be good. It wasn't. I mean, and the next person is probably gonna put their plan in place, and it might be good to some of us, might not be good. It's so hard to make a movie to appease everybody.
Let
these
alone
days.
a movie universe.
Yeah. Just because for me, it used to be just like you liked the movie, you didn't like a movie, and then you just leave it. But now there's it's just so many little things involved within the movie that people can make a bigger deal than they used to. You know what I mean? You either liked Star Wars before or you didn't.
Yeah.
You watched it or you didn't, and then you just left it alone. But now it's just a bunch of other things that are coming out that makes it super hard. I don't envy anyone taking that position, no matter how much money they're making.
Oh yeah, it's not an enviable job, especially with the state of Star Wars fandom being such a suck pool. I mean, let's face it, and I'm a Star Wars fan, but let's face it, Star Wars fandom is a cancerous, toxic cesspool. It really is. And like Rob and I were talking about, there have already been several prominent, highly respected, beloved filmmakers that have come out and said, I'll never do anything with Star Wars. Look at what the fandom does. So it's going to be interesting to see where they go.
We'll see.
All right, what's next?
Preston says if she doesn't become the next CEO of Disney, what about Dana Walden as head of Lucas? She has an amazing track record with both Fox and Disney. I think she's on the board, right?
Yeah, she is on the board. Yeah.
What is your checklist of who you would want in place? Like what's important to you that would in their background that you feel would help
successful
in that position.
experience running a large organization.
Okay.
That's it. I don't care if they have a movie background or
Oh,
not.
okay.
You know why? You hire somebody to run your movie division. I don't care if the next head of Disney has zero experience in entertainment. I want to see that they have experience in successfully running large organizations. Because if you do, then you know what you do? You go out and you hire an Alan Horn. Obviously, they're not going to hire Alan
not
Horn.
now.
He's in his like third retirement now.
Or an Ann Campea.
But you go out. It's like you don't work. I don't care if the CEO of Disney has any entertainment background. They'll hire a head of the movie division. That's fine. I don't care if the head of Disney has any parks experience. You hire somebody who then runs the parks. I want to see somebody in place who just has a firm, solid organizational understanding and has experience properly running large-scale organizations and has experience and shown a success record in hiring people around them to run the smaller details. That's what I want to see. So let's see if they can do it. All right, what's next?
We got Peter says, what do you think about someone like Timothy Zahn of the Thrawn trilogy being hired to help restart the Star Wars franchise?
He's a writer. We're talking higher level than
Yeah.
that. Like, what do I think about Timothy Zahn being hired to write a script?
Because they already have Kinberg kind of
Sure.
in place, right?
Yeah. I mean, I would love that. But again, let's stop talking about hiring Michael Jordans to own the team or hiring Wayne Gretzky's to coach. He's a writer. So yeah, it would be cool to see him write some stuff. I really liked both of his Thrawn trilogies. I think are great. I think he's a wonderful writer, but as a writer, sure, but let's not go beyond that. All right, what's next?
We got Anonymous. I skipped this by accident. Just got out of Seeing the Monkey. It was so stupid and I loved it. Felt like Final Destination crossed with Looney Tunes.
It is so crazy how mixed the responses. I'm like, I've been hearing from people who saw it and loved it. I've been hearing from people who saw it and hated it. It's really interesting. It's getting that kind of a diverse opinion. I'm glad you had a good time with it.
That description actually got me.
It makes you want to go see it now?
Yeah, the Looney Tunes part is something I didn't expect from a film that looks like this. So,
All right, what's next?
We got Renetta says, hi, y'all. Kennedy is a great producer. Always have and always will be. It is time for her to go. Thank goodness. Made some billions for the company. Well done. Need a structured, well-run machine. Get it done, Disney.
They need a person in place. This isn't the sexy thing to say. I get it. They need an administrator. They need a person who knows how to hire the right people. That's what you need. What makes Bob Iger, besides the fact that he's a genius, so good is that he hires great people. Now, they let George Lucas pick his successor. Fine. They should have fired Kennedy earlier. Fine. But Bob Iger, he puts Alan Horn in charge and then empowers Kevin Feige and the head of Disney Animation and the head of Pixar. And I want to see somebody come in and lead Lucasfilm more like that as a company. I want to see an executive who knows how to then hire creative people around them. I don't need the head of Lucasfilm to be a filmmaker. Not at all. Far from it. I mean, you could hire a filmmaker like a John Favreau, and that could work great. But my first choice would be to hire a really skilled executive who then knows how to hire a John Favreau to be the vice president in charge of production of Lucasfilm, and then knows how to hire the right people to build around them. That's what I want to see. That's the formula for success, I think. All right, what's next?
Okay, here's our last one. The Dark Nick says, John, I, much like you, don't drink, but with the news of Kathleen Kennedy stepping down, I propose a toast. Star Wars fans have been waiting a long time for this. We finally have a new hope. Cheers. Bring on the filter.
Yeah, I agree. And again, I also don't drink, which is probably one of the other reasons I didn't pop this open. Again, and it is with all respect. I've always said, listen, for the years and years and years that I've been calling for Kathleen Kennedy to leave this job, I have always done so with respect, right? Not taking anything away from her legendary accomplishments. 8 of her films have been nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars. She has produced everything from genre to action to fantasy to sci-fi to period pieces to everything you name it. She's produced it. She has been enabling and facilitating directors to succeed for her whole career. She's amazing. She's absolutely amazing. Anybody who doesn't acknowledge that is an absolute fucking moron. She is amazing. But running a studio is a different job than being a producer. And at this job, she has not been amazing. And that's okay. That's okay. She gave it her best. She was handpicked by George Lucas. She truly is passionate about Star Wars. But this wasn't a good fit for her. And it didn't work. And frankly, she should have left 5 years ago. Frankly, Disney should have removed her 5 or 6 years ago. But here we are. She's moving on now. I hopefully Andor 2 will be a great send-off for her and will be a nice little thing to be the end chapter of her time at Lucasfilm. And again, I say it with respect, but she needed to be gone years ago, and it's good that she's moving on now. And again, I say it with respect. All right, what's next?
All right, well, we can hear from some members here. We got King Daddy Goat. Hey, John and crew, got to see Companion over the weekend. I enjoyed it quite a bit. Guess some twists, but was shocked at others. What did you guys think of it?
We've talked about
it a
it.
lot.
We reviewed it on the show.
Yeah.
I quite like Companion. Again, is it going to be a top 10 film of the year? No, but it was really quite enjoyable. Low budget, very like a little indie film kind of feel to it. You're right. Some of the twists totally saw coming, but a couple of them were really quite surprising. Overall, I just think it was a really nice little film. I hope they do another one. All right, what's next?
Okay, we got Brandon Salad who says, hey, crew, what's your most anticipated film coming in March? Got Novocaine, Mickey 17, Black Bag, Snow White, Alto Nights, Death of a Unicorn, lots of good stuff.
I want to say Mickey 17.
Me too. I already have my ticket for it.
But I'd be lying if I didn't tell you it was Novocaine. I'm really excited about Novocaine. And then after that, Mickey 17. I know you've been excited for Mickey 17 ever since they showed us all those previews at CinemaCon last year.
Which one is Novocaine again?
It's the one with Jack Quaid.
You can't feel pain.
He can't feel pain.
I haven't seen anything on that.
You haven't seen the trailer on that?
No, not at all. I should check it out after.
And it's got
busy
Amber
watching Dogman.
Mid-Thunder from Prey.
And
I'm
this
very
is like a
excited.
wide release too?
Wide release.
Coming out in March.
All right, what's next?
Okay, we got Jay says, when you use A-List, is it only your ticket that is free and you pay for someone else's ticket? Unless they have A-List, you can link.
Yes. So when you have A-List, only your ticket is free. But like, for example, Ray has A-List, Ann has A-List, our buddy Ryan has A-List, our buddy Soul has A-List. So I can book a ticket on AMC's website, and then it'll ask me, hey, as an A-List member, do you have other A-List members you're bringing? I'll go, yes. Ann is coming, and Ray is coming, and Ryan is coming. And then it'll just book for them, all for free, because they're A-List members. But yes, you don't get free tickets for other people, only people with A-List.
Before, didn't they have like a bring a guest before? Or am I thinking of something else?
No, you can bring a guest, but you got to pay for them.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, they never had one where you could bring somebody else for free. To the best of my memory.
Yeah, that would ruin it.
All right, let's take one more.
All right, good thing, because it's our last one.
Okay.
C. Michael says, I heard Gunn said he hasn't revealed the writer of the new Batman yet. This is Brave and the Bold, because he doesn't want to put too much pressure on them. Do you think he's referring to himself as the writer?
No, absolutely not. His plate is really full right now. So no, I don't think it's him. I have no idea who it could be, but it's definitely not him.
Yeah.
Richardson. Alan Richardson.
All right, guys. And that'll do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show podcast. Thank you so much for being here and making our little show a part of your day. We really do appreciate you guys spending your valuable time with us, and we hope we delivered. Maybe we did, maybe we didn't. Jump down in the comments section. Tell us how we can improve. A big thanks to the guys in the room with me, Ray Ora.
Hey, happy birthday to my friend, my friend since fifth grade, Ryan Myers. Happy birthday, brother.
Yeah, we're going to go out and have dinner tonight. Jonathan Voico.
See you guys later. It's not my birthday.
Again, big thanks to Chris and Rob for joining us in the show today. They'll both be back again tomorrow. And a big special thank you to all you guys who sent in those questions. Number one, because you gave us great fun things to talk about. But number two, you supported our channel as you did it. And all of us involved with the show, thank you guys so very much for your support. Hey guys, don't forget, I know we do say it all the time, but make sure you subscribe and leave a comment down below. It really helps the algorithm gods over at YouTube, and click the thumbs up button. And hopefully we will see you guys again tomorrow. That'll do it for us for now, guys. My name's John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.